Can we have a private conversation about your son's job performance?
Sure.
So, the last couple of times that he has been asked to show judgment, it hasn't been great.
Mm-hmm.
But that's my fault, not his.
Uh-huh.
I know what I married.
You seem to be blaming him.
No, I know what I married, but I'm going to blame him for something now, and I want your help in knowing how to navigate it. So we signed this big DraftKings deal, and it's got gambling elements to it where we're picking games for people. And your son is aggressively bad at it. Like but I mean, not just bad at it because he says Trevor Rogers stinks and then Trevor Rogers throws 15 straight scoreless innings. But yesterday, his advice was Zach Gallen, avoid him. He's lost it. And Zach Gallen's last 2 starts now, he's got 13 innings pitched, 1 earned run, and 19 strikeouts. I mean, he is. We need to be good at the gambling stuff, right. And his information is bad, and the only way that people will win is if they choose opposite what he's picking, because his information is bad and then the pick is disastrous. We can't, how are we supposed to stay in business that way?
Well, in and of itself, though, isn't the reverse curse in effect? In other words, whatever Christopher is suggesting people bet, if he's on a bad run, they bet the opposite, and then they're winning, and then he's a hero.
Yeah, but that's not how we've been doing it.
I like that, though.
You know, I mean, it's a method. It's a methodology. You know, everybody wants to pick the guy with all the information who's always right. But if you pick the guy who's always wrong, in a way, that's just as valuable. Right?
I agree.
Yeah. He picked Zach Gallen.
Fade him.
Fade him. Right. Pick the other guy. Pick the other pitcher. Pick the other
Well, then
team.
why don't we present it that way? Then our audience would be winning. Then it wouldn't be our picks are bad and our information's bad. Then at least we could be funny. At least we could be self-deprecating. But your take yesterday on gambling information was Zach Gallen has lost it. And he struck out 19 hitters in his last 13 innings and allowed 1 run.
Wow, that's pretty good. Go Zach.
But I mean, and then again, Trevor Rogers, our analysis was his ERA has been 5 since we've known him. And then against the Rangers twice, he holds them scoreless.
See, I get that, though. That's the beauty of gambling. You know, part of it is, all right, Zach Gallen's been on a heater. He's due for a bad start. So,
no, but that's not what he said.
Well, tune in next week to see if the heater continues.
Yeah, there you go.
He said Zach Gallen has lost it. He used to be good, and he's lost it. And then you know who he went with? You, Darvish.
Stop that. Stop that. Stop that. I hear him chat to the noise. Move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the walking. Just too sharp with the prize. White girls let it tell me I'm awesome, yeah. Hot like fire on the pan. If you wanna touch my please use caution. Cold like 0 degrees. I'm out the cage, gotta let out the beast. Revolutionary guy, let out the streets. Locked in a cage, I'ma let out the sheets. We came for one man, forget my peace. We take the west side, take on the east. I'ma put him in a cage, never let out the. Yeah, I hear him chat to the noise. Move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the boys. Not so tough, but mans keep walking. Yeah, just too sharp with the prize. White girls, let it tell me I'm awesome. Yeah, hot like fire on the pan. If you wanna touch my please use caution. Stop that. Stop that. Stop that.
Zaslow, beloved new member of our weird family here. When you hear Chris Cody and Greg Cody argue like that during the break and feel the tension as you sit between them, a lot of people think that Chris is very mean to his father on the Greg Cody Show featuring Greg Cody. They side with his father. What do you experience? Because you've often said that you don't know what's real around here and what's not real either. And now you're in the middle of the family dynamic, and you just saw them chirping at each other back and forth. And I've seen that escalate over time into them physically manhandling each other.
They put hands on each other.
Yes, they wrestle around and they grab each other's elbows. And Greg is not to be trifled with here. Greg.
Grab each other's elbows.
Yeah, because you're holding your dad back.
Greco-Roman.
Leverage.
Because you know, you know what I mean? Your dad, you got to hold him.
I'm lotioned up, so it's hard to get me.
You don't want to hurt him. You just hold him back. But you just saw it. What you were just witness to. What do you make of it?
Well, it makes me wonder if I'm the one who's weird because at my age, at this point in my life, I don't have, like, arguments with my father. Like, we're both adults, and it makes me wonder, am I the weird one there that we don't have arguments and we don't go at each other like that?
I'm not even asking you about the family dynamic as much as I'm asking you what they were specifically arguing about, which is just Chris telling his dad, a professional broadcaster, Dad, the microphone, put it in front of your mouth.
Well, he has told him. I mean, I hear it dozens of times every day. What's so hard about following directions?
Yeah, directions. The mic there's an obsession with microphones around here.
You're on radio.
I don't know. Yeah, it's a podcast. I don't know whether that's common in this business or not, but to me,
Greg, you think you've got it right and broadcasting has it wrong?
I don't think anybody is not hearing me now because I'm 2 inches back. Oh, I can't be 2 inches back. I got to be like this.
Well, we've angled it differently. Now it picks it up more.
Can you imagine he's on television? Oh, it's an obsession with cameras.
Yes, that's right. The camera moves. The camera follows me. The microphone doesn't. I think that's an issue with the technology of this whole business.
None of our cameras move, and the microphone doesn't need to come to you. You need to come to the microphone. Broadcasting doesn't need to come to you because you're reinventing it. You need to come over to where broadcasting has been.
Maybe it needs reinventing. You know, the cameraman, there's a phrase called the cameraman. You know, there's no one swiveling in here. The cameras don't move. Okay.
Greg, there's a difference between being heard and being heard clearly. Wow. And when you go backwards, you're not being heard clearly.
That's real reprimand.
I just heard you.
That's real reprimand from our sound guy. How often do you ever stand down? Do you ever concede, I got this wrong?
I do.
Gimmick, dude.
No, I do.
Let me ask you, Greg, are you growing a mustache or have you just shaven poorly the last few days?
I'm cultivating what is a potential mustache.
I want to get into the number of things that we have going on locally because there are a lot of them, okay? Put on the back burner, Messi's amazing goal and Zlatan saying last week that he plays with statues. And there wasn't a compliment to picturesque, statuesque players like Ronaldo. He was saying, no, these are players that are just statues. Put that off to the side for a second. Put the Marlins' 10 straight wins on the road off to the side for a second. Put the Dolphins and Asante Samuel Sr. and what he had to say, which was a rip job coming from a football name that has some clout that you don't often hear, directed at Dolphins management and taking personal shots at Dolphin management. I want to start with what I thought yesterday was the appropriate amount of enthusiasm for a local show for the Norman Powell trade, where we immediately made fun of the name Norman Powell and how hard it is to be a great athlete when your name's Norm or specifically Norman. It's hard. And Chris Cody underestimated this person based on only his name. A Norman can only be so intimidating. And we said it was a good trade, and I thought showed the proper enthusiasm for the Heat getting better without losing anything of value. Clearly getting somebody on everybody watching basketball would say that Danny Ainge did what he does and the Heat wins that trade because Norman Powell is a very good player on an expiring contract. That's what you want. The enthusiasm has now climbed to a place, though, where Zach Lowe is already willing to say that he knows that there are only 3 teams better than Miami in the East. And Boston's not one of them. It's Cleveland, and it's Orlando, and it's the Knicks. And that's what he says, the only 3 he knows, which is now, after this trade, what that suggests is the volume is being turned down from Flames engulfing Pat Riley to, wait, what? They're a 4 seed? You guys are going to try and talk yourself into the enthusiasm of Norman Powell makes them a 4 seed? And so now this excerpt from Greg Cody's column today. The Miami Heat won Monday's 3-team NBA trade with the Clippers and Jazz, and it isn't open to debate. Pat Riley sat at the poker table, picturing him in dark shades, and never smiled once until he stood up with all of the chips and a needed reminder of that familiar old mojo. The Godfather is still around, still able to pick your pocket.
That's correct. I stand by. I stand
yeah,
by.
but you made
He got you back.
Yeah, but you made it a mafioso who is now just taking nickels out of your
Yes.
pocket. Like
Yeah.
this isn't like a pickpocket is not like a pickpocket is the appropriate way to appraise this trade.
It was a pickpocket win on the trade because the trade worked for them both ways. It got them a quality player who makes the team appreciably better, and they also got rid of dead wood. It would have only been better had they been able to divest of Terry Rozier as well.
I want to hear from Mike and Zaslow on this because I think pickpocket is good, and the problem is that Mike and Zaslow want only a heist. Like in terms of what they want from the Godfather and the crime family, they don't want pickpockets.
Falsehoods. I wanted what we saw. Congratulations to Nick Harrison. Brilliant trade.
What do you mean congratulations, Nick Harrison?
I mean, Dan opened the door. I don't know who's in charge anymore. So let's, before we give the Godfather all the credit, this could have been a Nick Harrison move.
All
because
five
it was
of them. Good job.
It was a great job. Heat brain trust. That's all we wanted. A move to get better. And look inside this Eastern Conference. Now you have Zach Lowe saying now it's a rhetorical trick. Saying, look, they're the 4 seed now. When over the last 4 years, I think the difference between the 4 and 10 seeds have been 1.5 games.
But that's just Zach Lowe, though, that is Zach Lowe not moving in the last 6 months off of his position, that if you give the Heat a little bit, they will wring the very best out of it. It's a league-wide fear that he's expressing based on respect for what it is.
Especially on that network, no doubt. But that is precisely why we've wanted the Heat to make improvements, because you have the greatest head coach, arguably, of all time. Wow. And if you give him more, the results will be better. So I'm glad that they made this move and they got better as everyone else in the Eastern Conference started to make moves and look like they had a plan. So I'm really happy with it.
My favorite part of the trade, and they got a borderline all-star. Like, if you remember, Norman Powell probably should have been an all-star last year. They got a borderline all-star for nothing. Did I need to see Kyle Anderson in my life any longer? No. So they got him for really nothing, okay? But the thing that I liked about that trade yesterday, it's not that we know the Heat's MO is to get the whale, to get the really big superstar player. The move that I've wanted the Heat to make is I see these other trades over the last couple years, like take Indiana, we just saw in the finals, for instance, and they trade for Pascal Siakam a couple years ago, and it's like they gave up nothing. And I'm like, the Heat couldn't do that? Like, I want the Heat to make the trade where they get a good player for nothing. And finally, yesterday, they got the good player for nothing. So I feel good about it.
Yeah, and one of the things I wrote in the column is that, and Mike just alluded to it, to me, they rise appreciably from play-in purgatory to a position where they can compete for home court in the first round of the playoffs and win a first-round playoff game. Now, if your standard is, they missed out on Kevin Durant, they don't even have a chance for Giannis, they're not a championship contender right now.
Who is that?
Then that's the complaining Heat fan. Then you're not impressed with Norman Powell. But if you're looking micro instead of macro, this is an appreciably better team in a very mixed. To me, you mentioned Orlando. To me, after Cleveland and the Knicks, it's wide open for number 3.
This ignores Detroit. It ignores Atlanta.
It doesn't ignore them.
You can't ignore.
It puts them with them.
I still think they got to do something else, but it does check a lot of the boxes, and I actually do think it helps your pursuit of getting a star player. I think that their trade assets now after this move are better. Powell is a player that you can throw into a deal and not get met with scrutiny and the ringers of the world saying your package is garbage. This is a player of repute.
The ringers of the world, I don't think it was necessary to say it that way.
It was super necessary.
I also think that you will get nowhere in your coverage today. I believe this firmly. I will say it aggressively in any language. No one will say of Norman Powell anywhere in analysis a player of repute. That's only here. That only happens here. You get a player of repute. That is the highest compliment. Pat Riley critic and Mike Ryan, Miami
I went to
critic.
NBC.
Let me just stop you guys a couple of times, though. You just said flippantly Eric Spoelstra, arguably of all time. Best
I was
coach,
like, whoa.
Best coach of all time. You threw the arguably in there. You can't just skip past that, running past that with
Arguably, yeah. Arguably greatest head coach of all time.
Look,
I mean, that's top 5 conversation, yeah?
I think it was weird that he said arguably.
I thought the appropriate level of enthusiasm for this trade is that, yes, Norman Powell makes you better. He is a very good player, and he was very good last year. He's a very efficient player. But now you've got $65 million in expiring contracts for free agency, and you kept saying they got a 20-point-a-game scorer. You kept saying 4-0. I really do wonder how Kevin Love feels about the Miami years.
He's voiced it.
The way you guys do that, where you just keep shipping him off and calling him nothing again and again. I get it. I get it.
I mean, he or his social media manager said, like, I never thought I'd be a math equation.
Okay,
Right.
but so I find it interesting that it took Norman Powell to bring the flames down on this conversation. To
Just
make
winning a trade. That's what it is.
Yeah,
That's it?
That's yes. That's what we've been pounding the
Something
table
positive.
for. Do something.
Hey, you did something good.
to improve the team. Give your head coach a chance. Improve the team instead of standing idly by or actually making moves that make you worse while your competition gets better. Make a move. Make a move to let everybody know that you're not just going to stay stagnant.
All right, the move was trading Duncan Robinson for Norman Powell.
Well,
That's a big time upgrade.
it is a big time upgrade.
Not as a
and-
three-point shooter. It's
Yes,
not.
it.
He's a
it
damn good
absolutely
3-point shooter.
is.
You
No,
watch
no,
her.
wait a minute.
Damn
No,
good.
no. I thought. Hold on a second. Hold on. Norman Powell he shot 42% from three last year.
That's really good.
And he's better than Duncan Robinson. You guys are just dismissing Duncan Robinson, though, as if he weren't important to the Heat.
Oh, but wait, whoa, you just moved the goalpost at a record amount there. You said that this wasn't a better 3-point shooter, and he is a
No,
better 3-point
he is
shooter,
better.
and he's available, and he ain't scared.
You can't be scared.
Oh, here we go.
Norman Powell's has shot 42% on threes since 2021. So it's over a long period of time.
It's 7 threes a game. Yes,
That's good, man.
You guys are saying that you have made your team appreciably better. And if I started this offseason by simply telling you, hey, listen, you know where they're going to go? It's going to be run it back again, but they're just going to trade Duncan for Norman Powell. You good?
Yes.
That's better.
I don't think you.
We're talking.
I don't think you're
absolutely.
good.
Like, that's a start.
Norman,
It's a start.
Duncan Robinson, to me, never lived up to his contract here. He was
Ever.
overpaid. He was inconsistent. He didn't really rise in the biggest moments. He didn't lift the team.
I don't think that's fair.
to
to
me,
say
he was
that.
a spare
We've been
part.
appropriately called out on this, and so have I. Like, look, Duncan Robinson, this is a strange thing to talk about because people want to cape up for him as if there weren't games that he just didn't, like, play. He was out of the rotation for a lot of their runs. He got his job stolen. There's a reason why he's kind of fallen out of favor. But don't forget the Duncan Robinson game. There was a Duncan Robinson game in that run to the finals against the Denver Nuggets. He was your boy. I think game 2, and then the one in the gentleman's sweep that we had, Duncan Robinson showed up.
He had big moments in very big games. I don't think we're being fair.
Okay.
Shot for your life.
Okay. A real quick comment about Norman Powell. Last season in the NBA, he was one of only 6 players who scored that many points a game, who shot 48% or better from the field, and who shot 40% or better from threes. That's pretty good.
I'm not disputing any of this. I am simply telling you guys to please hear yourselves as a national show that has now changed its entire voice because of a Norman Powell trade, that if we were sitting here the last 10 days and Norman Powell had gone to any other team in the league, you would be mocking whatever it is that team thinks it's become by adding merely Norman Powell, who you now have going from a play-in team that was 10 games under 500 to somewhere in the middle of the conference where they would have to be 10 games over 500. And if I told you, would trading Duncan Robinson for Norman Powell be that difference, you would tell me no.
I don't know if it would be 10 games over. I don't think that's the golf, especially with all the
But I'm
injuries
saying
in the
that,
Eastern
no,
Conference.
but if you're the 4 seed, you're 10 to 15 games over 500. If you're the 4 seed in that conference.
I don't know
Not
what
necessarily.
I don't know what the East is going to look like. I think it's going to be a bit of a mess, like it has been the last few years. And if another team made a move to acquire Norman Powell for essentially what the Heat gave up. I would also be very mad that the Heat once again are standing idly by. Let me give you a stat courtesy of Synergy Basketball. Norman Powell was the 6th most efficient scorer in the NBA among 68 players who used over 18 possessions per game this season. He shot 45% on movement, 3-point attempts, and 40% spotting up. This is a really good player. He's a good shooter, and thankfully they gave their great head coach something to work with.
Duncan Robinson has been under 40% shooting for the last 4 seasons, and you guys both went to Skurd, which is the biggest public indictment that you can make, because during slumps it was clear to everybody watching that he didn't want to shoot so much.
This is not a theory. It's that he lost his job because Max Strus would not stop shooting, where Duncan Robinson would very obviously to the eye not take the shots.
Oh, I didn't call him Skurd. I'm just saying you can't be Skurd. Everybody knows you can't be Skurd.
But you were saying he was Skurd.
No, I just said it's ambiguous.
It's not. It wasn't ambiguous.
The Heat told you he was Skurd.
No,
the Heat told you by him
I'm
pulling
not.
out of the rotation.
I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to Zaz. You accused him of being Skurd. You did it.
Disagree. Do you need me to make a ruling here? I mean, I'm just saying.
You can't rule for yourself.
Nip this right in the bud.
Okay, no, yes, if you want, you're the judge. Yes, you can make a ruling,
Yeah.
but this seems unfair. It seems like a conflict of interest.
You don't get to decide what's fair or not fair in my courtroom. Find you out of order.
This is what America's starting to feel like everywhere. You're going to make the ruling,
Yeah.
even though you've got a clear conflict of interest.
Was I calling Duncan Robinson Skurd, or was it completely ambiguous? It was ambiguous. With prejudice.
Okay.
Yeah, that's true, with prejudice.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks, Greg.
No, once you go, there was Duncan Robinson's name, and then I heard as the undertow to it, Skurd. You volunteered it, and Mike was so ready to notarize it back there.
It sounds like you're attempting to retry the case, and that's not going to happen.
All right,
Double
fine.
jeopardy.
All right.
All we have is the results, both the ruling and the fact that he fell out of the rotation for being scared.
Fair enough. I lose. I mean, I don't want to risk contempt of court, but I do have contempt for the court in this respect. Zaslow is fitting in a little too well. I don't know what he brought in here into the room for breakfast. I just saw so much icing on it. I'm assuming it was cake. I don't know what it was.
Cream cheese.
Oh, my God. What kind of mountain of cream cheese?
I like a good slab of cream
Hell
cheese.
yeah, dude.
I thought that was icing on a cake.
You know what it is? In my house, in the Zaslow mansion, we have whipped cream cheese, okay? But I prefer the block.
The good stuff.
I prefer the block. And you guys here, I love the spread. It's my I wake up in the morning. I'm tired when I wake up. And the thing that gets me out of bed, there's going to be a great spread today in the studios in the Elster Hotel. And I get here, and you guys got the good cream cheese. I'm taking advantage of that. I put a block of that baby on my bagel.
I legitimately thought
Icing?
From
On a bagel?
No, I thought it was a piece
thought it
of
was eating
cake.
cake.
I thought
Cinnamon roll for
breakfast?
Who eats cake for breakfast?
You know what? I won't knock it till I try it, actually.
guys, like you guys are missing the point here. I'm clearly shocked with who eats cake for breakfast. Well, Zaslow does, because from my eyes with the lighting in here, what he had done is piled so high the cream cheese
Took advantage.
that I thought it was a giant layer of icing on the top of a birthday cake. It was Juju's birthday yesterday. Hold on a second. Let me see this. I got to find this somewhere. Okay.
Happy birthday to him. I don't care. Good luck.
And I thought you had a piece of cake. And it's not unreasonable because it looked like a piece of cake.
But did you think I was having a piece of cake for Juju?
No. Because no one would put that much cream cheese on a bagel is my point.
Someone who doesn't get the block of cream cheese very often would.
The other thing that I wanted to talk to you guys about before I get to the Marlins winning 10 straight on the road is Asante Samuel Sr. on a podcast called, thankfully, Say What Needs to Be Said.
What do you think that podcast is about?
I don't know. I don't know who hosts this podcast. I do know we're running out of names in the podcast industry. I do know that I want to hear someone say what needs to be said. And evidently, Asante Samuel Sr., whose son would help the Dolphins right now. Mina Kimes on NFL Live yesterday. They spent a whole segment yesterday just saying how terrible the Dolphins are, how mediocre they are, and Mina Kimes just finished it with they've got no corners. They've got the worst corners in the league. So they could use Asante. Now that they've traded Jalen Ramsay, they cannot cover people. And that's not good. Like that, I don't need to tell you that having the worst corners in the league, they're hard to come by. And they've had that as security the last few years. Greg, you've lived in this town long enough to have this town hate 4 or 5 or 6 cornerbacks. We haven't had one of them in the last few years.
Right. That's true. Also, let's not mistake Asante Samuel Jr. for his father. They're not the same player. Asante Samuel was very good. 4 or 5 Pro Bowls.
Senior,
the original. Junior, he's never made a Pro Bowl. He's coming off a neck injury. He missed almost all of last season. He might not even be healthy for training camp. I mean, there are, he's not the be-all, end-all of if they acquire him.
Understood. I wasn't saying he's the be-all, end-all. I'm saying Mina Kimes is saying they've got the worst corners in the league, and this is a weird story on a number of fronts. One of the corners they would be interested in, it would make sense, is the son of a man who's going on a podcast that says what needs to be said. Can you find me the hosts of that, please? And I do want to talk with you guys what podcast names are still available in sports, because I think they've all been taken.
Not the hockey show. That's on me, baby.
That's right. That is taken, though. You got that space. No one else had the hockey show.
Nobody else has the Greg Cody show.
I find the hockey show hard to believe.
That no one else.
I
just
feel like
calls
someone
it the
thought of
hockey
that.
show.
There's multiple hockey shows out there.
Yes.
It is hosted by Asante Samuel.
Okay.
It's his podcast.
Okay, it's his. So he is saying what needs to be said. No one else is saying this except fans and Big Mac in the carport. It's let's play the sound that needs to be said that is more personal than I'm expecting from a retired NFL player. What is it? A player of repute.
Had no reason to trade Jalen Ramsay other than they're sensitive. There's no leadership in the Dolphins organization. Mike McDaniels is a pushover. Chris Greer, the general manager, he has no backbone. These guys over here at the Miami Dolphins, they are running this team like a little league team. No one can stand up to the players. They're terrified of their own players, and they have no control over their players.
That is unbelievable thing to say.
Well, so it need to be said.
Who does he think he is? Keith Kachuk? You remember that? When Keith Kachuk called Paul Maurice the P word pretty much?
No backbone, pushover, no leadership, little league team, no control, intimidated, terrified of the players. How does he know any of that?
He doesn't. You know what? I think there's something behind this story. And first of all, Asante, the Dolphin head coach's name has no S on the end. It's McDaniel. The Dolphins had big interest.
Zaslow, why did you make that face?
It's just funny.
Because he got his ass.
You one-upped him, Greg.
Thank you. The Dolphin. I'm particular about that. If I were named McDaniel and somebody called me McDaniels, that would be like putting 2 G's on the end of Greg. You don't stand for it. You comment on it every time. You correct it every time. The Dolphins had big interest in his son. Listen to what I'm saying.
It's tough to tell, though, like if someone puts 2 G's on Greg when they say it. It's
That's
tough
right.
to know.
It is tough to know. But,
It's impossible.
But if you see it written, if somebody sends me an email and misspells my name, you think I'm going to answer that email? Hell no.
Wow.
Okay. The Dolphins had big interest in Junior.
I feel like you would answer.
Okay. Sooner or later, I'm going to be able to say this without being interrupted. The Dolphins had, because this explains perhaps his father's volatile take. The Dolphins had big interest in his son in May, sort of fizzled out. That interest ebbed for whatever reason. Now, a couple of months later, Dad's coming back on his podcast and saying what a lousy team the Dolphins are with no leadership, possibly because they weren't interested enough in his son to sign him, and possibly because coming off a neck injury, interest in Asante Samuel Jr. is not flying off the charts.
Is it going to go up, though, with him? Like, is any team now going to be like, oh, I want to bring in his son since he's just going to do this? I feel like it doesn't help him anyway, either with the Dolphins or other teams.
I would think not.
There you go. He talked through the cough button.
Through the cough button.
I'm sorry. I can't do everything at once. I'm sorry. I muffled a cough, and I said probably not. Certainly not going to help his son's cause. I hear that.
You said flying off the charts?
Yeah. It's a music phrase.
Is it?
Yeah. Like if your song is blowing up the charts, it rose on the Billboard charts from number 38 to number 4.
But that's
in 1
flying
week.
up the charts. You said flying off the charts.
Yeah, same thing.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I didn't know. I'm not trying to nitpick. I know
Right.
it sounds like it, but I was trying to figure out what you were saying.
Yeah.
Whether it was flying, whether something was flying off the shelves, or whether it was
Right.
flying up the chart.
Well, I'm the kind of guy who invents idioms. I originate a lot of phrases and sayings that become well said.
Do you fly
for a
off
long
the
time.
chart or off the handle?
Well, those are two different things.
Okay, so you can do both.
Yeah, flying off the handle means losing your temper. Flying off the charts means, interest is extreme. Success is
So
extreme.
you're saying that there's something fishy here with this criticism. How much are you guys buying on what he's suggesting there, that this is a scorned father in defense of his son? Greg Cody would recognize that behavior.
I don't know how Asante Samuel Sr. knows anything about the inner workings of the Dolphins, yet I think he's accurate with everything he's saying.
Well, this is the commonly held belief, and it's just because McDaniel's nebbish.
It's so wild, the perception change, because the first couple years it was like everyone loves it, players, coach, fun, relatable,
But
and
it's
then
also-
we have a couple bad seasons and it's no one takes him serious.
But physically, I wonder how much. I don't even know whether these people know what Chris Greer looks like. Not that I'm not. So, we're just nerding them. That's what we're doing to them. Like that, we're saying they can't control these players because the players are clearly the players who are also accused of being soft are too tough for this management team. And this management team is viewed as soft. What kind of criticism is that? Like, honestly, in that sport, I understand that people think that the Dolphins are a finesse team because they're a scheme team, but it's also the most excited we've been about the Dolphins in 25 years that they schemed their way to something because they had speed for a minute. Like, you're not going to try and convince me that the way that they were playing football wasn't the exciting way to play football here. Their quarterback got injured. They took a chance in a window that was small, and now it's costing them some of their named players, so they look mediocre and desperate when they get Darren Waller. But we're just going to dismiss this executive team because the fan base thinks they're mediocre. The team's mediocre, and that these two guys are bookworms or accountants?
I think we retrofit how we feel about a head coach based solely on results. And Mike mentioned Keith Kachuk using the P word to refer to Paul Maurice. Maurice might be referred to as nebbish or a nerd. Guess what? Then he wins two Stanley Cups in a row. Nobody's calling him that anymore. Now he's a genius. Mike McDaniel was a genius for 1 year. Got to be a genius for 1 year. They score 70 points against Denver. Then injuries happen. Then other stuff happens. And now we're calling into question his leadership and the culture around him. Something else needs to be said about the Jalen Ramsay
Then
story.
say it.
About how he
It
left.
does need to be said.
About how he left.
Say
that
what
club.
needs to be said.
Jalen Ramsay, according to a story in the Sun Sentinel today, was traded in part because he was a real problem last season. He was late for meetings. He himself was the opposite of leadership. He was undermining McDaniel and Greer fairly openly, and other players were going along with him, and that became very corrosive. I don't know if Asante Samuel, the podcaster, knows that or not.
Florio makes the opposite accusation of Minkah Fitzpatrick in Pittsburgh, saying that he was running afoul of everyone in Pittsburgh. So this is what happens when players get traded. All of a sudden, some more honesty comes out. But before we get to a game that I want to play here with Mike Ryan that goes over podcast names, and thank you for saying what needed to be said.
Thank you.
You said in the middle of what you were saying, and you do this when you're feeling yourself, guess what? You're like, and guess what? Paul Maurice is a two-time champion.
Right.
That guess what? Can we make a game around that? Because he loves doing this. This is his move. When he's talking down to you, listener, who thought he couldn't guess what was coming next. Guess what? Champion 2 times. You hit him with the guess what. I bet you there's not a podcast called Guess What? And I think
there's
we should
gotta be.
start. I think we should start it with Greg Cody because there is you being arrogant, you pointing because what you did is you had the poker hand, the nuts there. You're like you talked badly about Paul Maurice. Well, he's won 2 straight
Right,
championships.
yeah.
Guess what?
Sure, yeah. You're right. I mean, that's unscripted.
Guess what already exists?
Damn it. Damn it.
Which leads me to my brand new game. Hit it, Roy. Real podcast or fake?
Oh, I like this game.
Is it sports category? Is it everything?
Oh, yeah, it's sports. First one up. It Be Like That with Jason Terry. Real podcast or fake?
You throw that name in there, and I just feel like
that
it's real.
changes it, right?
It authenticates it.
It
Yeah.
Be Like That with Jason Terry. Real podcast
Yeah. I'm gonna say,
or fake?
I'm going to say that that's real, but I'm not going to feel good about I'm almost scared to admit honestly that I think that's real.
Any other votes? Any
I
other
vote
guesses?
no. I vote no.
I'm going no. I don't think it's real.
Well, it's the safer bet. You guys are out here, and I'm making the dangerous bet.
It Be Like That with Jason Terry. Not a real podcast. Next one up.
Now look at me.
Buckets and Boards with Mark Madsen. Real podcast or fake? Buckets and Boards with Mark Madsen.
I got to vote yes. We podcasters love that alliteration.
I guess I got to vote yes too because it sounds real. I can't lie.
Last one was fake, so this one's probably going to be real, right? Back and forth.
Well,
type thing.
Buckets and Boards with Mark Madsen is real. Next one. Just How It Is with Josh Smith.
No.
Just How It
no,
Is
There's no way.
Oh,
There's
awful.
no way.
with Josh Smith.
No, Josh.
Now,
doesn't-
is it possible you're giving us the right name, but like it's
No.
with someone else, not Josh Smith?
Just How It
there's no-
Is.
Josh Smith did not like being interviewed. He did not like talking. There's no way Josh Smith is hosting a podcast.
He might be, but not Just How It Is.
Good job, Dan.
Ain't No Changing It with Zadarius Smith. Ain't No Changing It with Zadarius Smith. Real or fake?
You know what I'd like to do? Audience, can you make Ain't No Changing It with Zadarius Smith fly straight up the charts right now? Can you make Zadarius Smith confused at his influx of giant following
Off the chart.
right now because this is a podcast that exists? We're going to show everyone it exists. Unless it doesn't, in which case I've sent our audience on a wild goose chase.
Ain't No Changing It with Zadarius Smith.
That has to exist.
Real or fake?
So random.
I'm saying yes. I want our
If
audience.
it's fake, I'm applauding Mike's creativity creating it.
No, it's too real to be fake. Is what I'm saying. It has to be real, and we have to support this as a Meadowlark needs to support Zadarius Smith here.
It is fake.
Oh,
Good job on you.
doggone it.
You're creative.
It's too bad.
The Posecast with James Posey. Real or fake?
Awful. Can't be real.
The Posecast with James Posey. Is this a real podcast or a fake one?
Shit's whack. Can't be real.
Shit's Whack is actually a real podcast hosted by Etan Thomas.
That was definitely Lewis speaking through.
What?
100%.
That was 100%.
Fed the
Lewis.
wrong guy there. I could have used Shit's Whack. Lewis.
Sounded so natural. How'd you know it was Lewis coming out of my
Yeah,
mouth?
seriously.
The Posecast is real.
Oh, geez.
God.
So we had Meadowlark had the Posecast for a while.
This is the Posecast.
Is it spelled differently or is it spelled the same?
Chalk It Up with Jimmy Rollins.
Oh, that is real. That is real.
It is fake.
What is Jimmy Rollins' podcast?
He does not have Chalk It Up. We made it up. The next one. Available on Apple with Michael Beasley.
Jimmy Rollins' podcast is called the 611 Podcast with Jimmy Rollins and Ryan Howard.
I mean, but you tricked me. That's not fair that I don't know the name
Is
of it.
available on Apple, hosted by Michael
There's
Beasley.
no way that's
Can't
real.
be.
That can't be real. I want it to be real. I wish it were real. I wish
That one's fake. And that is real podcast.
Very nice.
It's a good start. A good start to a good
Ain't no
game.
changing it. With Zadarius Smith.
Oh man.
I was so ready to. In fact, I think we should invent that podcast right now. I think that you guys should get together, call Zadarius Smith, put out a 1-minute episode of just this is the first podcast. With
A trailer.
Zadarius Smith.
I'm on it.
The reason why I thought it was Zadarius Smith, he was at the NASCAR race and people were around him saying, no pictures, no pictures. I was like, man, you got to know ball to know who that is.
Bert Kreischer.
When you're taking your shirt off and using your body as comedy, you're going.
That's Florida, bro.
You're going maximum
That's
Florida, man.
That's Florida.
When did you decide to start doing that? When was it encouraged? When did that become your signature? The idea that you're up there just throwing your body at the people here in a tight pair of jeans, shirtless.
I was. The jeans have gotten tighter the fat I've gotten. They weren't always tight. My daughter said Baby Walrus needs to move out of skinny jeans. I started doing it just to cheer myself up because you get on the road and do like a Thursday night and you'd be like, I got a whole weekend ahead of me. This is gonna be a long weekend. I'm missing my family. It's not sold out. So I would rip my shirt off and kill a beer to make myself giggle because I thought it was silly and to remind myself this should be fun. And then one night I was in Columbus, Ohio. I ripped my shirt off and killed a beer. And then something happened in the room and I forgot to put it back on. And one of the comics I respected was in the back and he was like, bro, you just did a whole hour with your shirt off.
And how does this work with comfort with your body? Because not everyone can do that. You're the first to be doing that. Not everyone is comfortable enough with their size to be in front of thousands of people shirtless like that because it is funny.
It's interesting because I have this reverse body dysmorphia. So like I heard a story, secret time. Obviously I'll tell you, but secret time. I heard a story that Chris Pratt was a fat kid growing up and that someone told me like he'll always be fat in his head. No matter how great of shape he is, he'll always think of himself as a fat kid. I was in shape as a kid, and so I do not see myself fat at all. As a matter of fact, I think in Razzle Dazzle, I look low-key jacked. I think I look better than I've ever looked. My shoulders, dude, look at my shoulders.
You are jacked. Oh, yeah. You got some cuts right there. You see it there?
I mean, I'm feeling good. I feel great about my body.
The new Netflix stand-up special, Razzle Dazzle.
Oh, look at that. Look at that. Bert, stop making those
Never show
faces.
your belly button.
Yes.
Do that thing where you're,
Let's increase your female viewers.
make your boobs move.
This is a body you can get.
Razzle Dazzle is the stand-up special. How old would you have to be? What is the age if I came up to you and said, Bert, you're not going to believe this, but the new movie, Machine, it's in theaters in May, and Razzle Dazzle, a Netflix special, is happening. At what point in your career, at what age would you have said, yeah, that's a possible dream?
Oh, 50? Where I am. I didn't think any of that was going to happen. Listen, I got to be dead honest with you. I shot Razzle Dazzle in November, and I'm used to the Netflix specials, but with the Machine movie, that was sitting on a shelf. They weren't doing anything with it, and they weren't going to release it. And it wasn't until I leaked it on Rogan that it got life. And so ever since it's got life, now it's got real life, and so I didn't think the movie was ever going to come out.
Dan, Bert's got me feeling confident. You know what? I'm going to join you, Bert, taking the shirt off.
Wow.
I love it.
Well, I'm going to have to do it too.
I too was ripped when I was younger, Bert.
I have to do it.
Let's all be. Come on, bros.
Oh man,
I don't really want to do
Round the horn.
this.
Stu, you're looking good.
The Mano lantern.
Thank you.
Okay.
Oh my
Dan's
god.
doing it too.
Dano!
This is
Take the
uncomfortable.
top off.
Oh jeez.
All right, you are allowing us to be more comfortable with our physical
Okay.
appearances.
I have to take off my nipple stickers.
He's a pioneer and an icon.
Oh, look at
Perfectly
Dano.
haired.
Mr. Nipple.
Oh,
Perfectly
do
haired.
this
Sorry,
to
and this
everybody.
I didn't know it's like a
Really cold
routine.
in here.
Yeah,
It's
it is
reverse body
cold in
dysmorphia.
here.
It's a reverse
It's a
body
really
dysmorphia
weird
thing.
time for Jessica to come
We
back
are-
into
yeah, I
the
was
room.
like, Jessica,
Perfectly
do not
haired
walk in
gentleman.
here.
Hey, Jess.
You like it, Bert?
Get out.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Absolutely beautiful.
Thank you.
Why
So
are you
you.
massaging?
Andrew Luck making an appearance
cold.
there. Bert, I do want to know when you were partying, the top partier at the #1 party school in the country. What did that look like?
You're looking at.
Marijuana in the afternoon,
Yeah.
around 4. Simpsons, fried chicken, and a lot of cocktails up until about 2 a.m. Then back to my place. Goat Campbell around 3 a.m. Joint set on the Seminole Head.
I love you.
And not a lot of sex, just dudes.
The best 6.5 years of your life, Bert.
How much public nudity was there?
An aggressive amount. This is back before that was considered assault.
You can't do that. You shouldn't be. Publicly nude is probably a bad idea, but this was a different time.
I'm feeling assaulted right now in this room.
I took a dump on a pizza box to win an election. Like I was totally naked. Like this is back when that was called provoking.
That is a great sentence. I took a dump on a pizza box to win an election.
By a landslide. I won by a landslide.
I mean, that was Trump's platform.
What can you tell me about being moved performing in front of so many people? Because the crowds now where you gather are enormous. They surprise me even as funny as you are.
I'm telling you, I had a real moment in Boston. I had a real moment in Tampa at Amalie, but I had a real moment in Boston when I walked in and there's this old.
This episode is presented by DraftKings. DraftKings, the crown is yours.
David Sampson's going to join us in moments. I do want to start a segment, Something Fishy, okay? Because Greg Cody is alleging something fishy here in the Samuel family.
Podcast.
He is there. That's got to be out there already, right?
Hosted by Marty Fish.
There was a podcast. Stugotz was trying to sling some Andy Roddick, Marty Fish podcast idea together. I think he was calling it Dick Fish or something. Somebody's got to ask him. He had an idea. Why are you making that face, Zaslow?
It's a funny name for a podcast.
It's probably taken.
I love how Stugotz fleshes out ideas. Hey, Travis Kelce should have a podcast.
Yeah.
That's your idea, man.
Yeah. David Sampson has stolen something made popular by Stugotz. He played the game recently with Stan Van Gundy, Stan Van in or Stan Van out. That makes no sense.
Who did I steal that from?
Well, I don't know, but that's a game that sort of is played by Billy and Stugotz, except they're more clever with the wordplay that's Stan Van in and Stan Van out, which doesn't make any sense.
Stu has just claimed that he's cornered the market on those type of hacky titles for games.
Well, he also claimed that he came up with the designated batter rule. So, it is what it is. Stan was a great guest. I appreciated the Meadowlark help and having him join. And we do a guest every Tuesday and Thursday. We just had Bobby Valentine on today, which was fun to talk to him. And Stan, we just were talking about issues actually of today's NBA and what his views were and whether he was in or out. I like the movie In and Out, so I don't think Stu came up with that.
Great flick.
What are your thoughts on what it is that we were just discussing here with Pat Riley? And I'm not necessarily interested in what you think of the Norman Powell trade, but do you guys know that old Samson ran into Pat Riley here in Italy? He was did Samson, did he put that out in public, or was that a private thing?
I put that out. I posted a picture. I believe I either sent it to you or posted it. I'm trying to remember which, but we ran into each other at a Springsteen concert in Milan, and we were in a pre-concert area called the East Street Lounge, and there he was and there I was, and we locked eyes from across the room. Easy for me to lock eyes with him because he was the tallest person in the room, and I wasn't. And there was some context issues other than the fact we've seen each other at Springsteen concerts for years and years and years. And we immediately got to talking about what it is for runs to come to an end and how you deal with that. Because query, were we at the last Bruce Springsteen and East Street Band concert? And what does that mean to us? And what is it to run a team where you know that your run is over? How do you try to hang on? And this was pre-Powell. He did not mention the Powell trade to me at all, but we certainly did talk about what it is to really have good self-awareness about your team.
What did he say? And you're making it sound like you two were talking as peers. Like you, Bruce, and him.
No, Springsteen was not there.
No, I know, but the way that you're framing it sounds like the conversation. You're immediately going to, you buried a time in your career and reinvented yourself in a new medium, and it sounds like you were putting yourself in the company of Pat Riley and Bruce Springsteen.
So Dan, I can only tell you that Pat Riley and I have known each other for a very long time and have spoken about running teams because we both ran teams. And so I can't be a peer of a Hall of Famer. He's the greatest to ever do it, both in my mind as a coach and as an executive. So we're in the same industry, I would say, but I would not call him my peer, but I'm thankful to call him a good acquaintance. I wouldn't call him a friend because I don't throw that word around as much as some other people I know, but a good acquaintance. But we did get into a deep conversation while waiting for the Springsteen concert to start.
And Chris Cody was interested in what he had to say. He wants you to spill secrets on how Pat Riley told you, and as if it were breaking news that an 80-year-old man might be contemplating whatever is the end.
Well, I like how you try to put death as part of, cast over every one of your interviews as it relates to people who are octogenarians. But Pat Riley was not thinking about death by any stretch. We were thinking about life, and we were about to watch a 75-year-old rock for 3 hours, and we were in awe of that. And the conversation was based on not the end of his life or my mortality or my hypochondria. It was actually based on when you are putting a team together, whether it's Meadowlark, whether it's on air, whether it's an on-court team, how do you know when you've gone too far? How do you know when you don't have the right pieces around you, and when are you able to admit it? And we were talking about free agency and the trade deadline and all of these things. So peer, I think, is not relevant to the conversation. What's relevant is Pat Riley acknowledging with me that is the hardest thing to do, no matter who you are, Hall of Famer or schlepper. The hardest thing to do is to have enough self-awareness to recognize your failings.
All right, you gave it to us at the end a little there. I want to know what he said.
Are you Stan Van in or Stan Van out on Juan Soto should be an all-star?
In. Stan Van in. He's you can't be the player of the month for one of the 3 months that happened before the All-Star game, the best player, and not be an all-star. But he will be an all-star. There's so many replacements that'll be coming. I promise you Juan Soto will be in Atlanta.
Are you Stan Van in or Stan Van out on Mike Brown as the new coach of the Knicks?
Couldn't be more Stan Van out. That, as a Knicks fan, I am despondent beyond repair because there's no way that Mike Brown's name is going down in history with Red Holzman. Mike Brown with his championship pedigree, give me a small break. This has Dolan written all over it. We knew on Nothing Personal was an official wait to see that Dolan would hire someone with experience because that's what he would rely on as some way to keep sort of the vision alive that he knows what he's doing. I don't think Mike Brown is the answer. I think Tibbs was the answer. And the fact that they got rid of him just shows that Dolan is being impetuous, which I'm very familiar with, and it doesn't lead to championships.
Wait a minute. Impetuous sounds like it's combining impetuous and incestuous.
I love where your head is. The word salad of that, impetuous, is a compound word that is meant to indicate that is someone who is both incestuous and impetuous.
I don't believe that's true in any way. I believe that you're faking your way through that. I believe that was a bullshit word of yours. Impetuous is not a word. And you just went and told us, and this was funny. Did you guys hear this or did you not hear it? He gave us an official wait to see. There was an official wait to see that David Samson declared. It is one of the worst catchphrases I've ever heard.
Thank you, Dan.
No, but it is. And look, you cannot imagine Arnold Schwarzenegger, doing a movie and the poster is wait to see.
Yeah.
Like I understand what you're doing there. You're being fair. You're being reasonable. What is an official wait to see for those who are not familiar with the nothing personal parlance and what it means to be an official wait to see?
It means that we're actually accountable for what we do on the show, and you can go to davidsamsonpodcast.com, and we have a document. It's a tracking document with every one of our picks where you'll see whether I got the pick right or wrong because we pick a game every day, every movie I've reviewed, and every wait to see, which is when we tell you something's going to happen, and if it does, okay. If it doesn't, okay. But we'll revisit it to say we were right or we were wrong. Not a lot of accountability in the fake podcast world.
Okay, so we thank you for bringing that up. We have got a new game for you that we're tearing through the charts. We're flying off the charts with this new game that we're playing. These are baseball podcasts or not? Are they real or fake? Are you ready to do this? Does this have the same music or different music? Roy, hit it.
So 80s.
David, we will ask you if these podcasts are real or fake. The first one up is 3 Up, 3 Down with Hunter Green.
Fake.
Hunter, why'd you take Hunter Green? He's not a talker. Like,
3 Up, 3 Down.
I know, but why are you
with Hunter
that's
Green?
Not, he would have no reason to be doing a podcast.
That is fake.
I answered it before you finished the question, Jeopardy style.
I know, but
I hit the buzzer.
I know,
Fake.
but he's showing his lack of knowledge on Hunter Green, and he just wanted to say the name Hunter Green.
Next one up. Heckles D's with Adam Jones. Heckles
Fake.
D's. Fake?
Fake.
That is a real podcast. Heckles D's.
Let me call Stu and see if it's on the charts.
No, wait a minute. You got it wrong. Don't. He's telling you it's real.
That is a real podcast. Heckle D's.
You're not.
Yeah, that was a throwback reference to Stu criticizing Nothing Personal for not being on the charts. Thank you, Dan.
What happened? You and Stu are beefing?
You were actually the center of it. You were there. You were a part of it.
When?
You were there.
All
right. The Compound with Ian Happ. The Compound with Ian Happ.
Why was I there? How was I there? What?
Is The Compound.
Because you're the leader of the show.
With Ian Happ, a real podcast.
He's in a compound?
The Compound with Ian Happ.
I believe that Ian Happ does have a podcast. I don't know its name, but I'm going to go real on that.
That is real.
Ian Happ hit the home run on opening day that Dan swallowed Billy.
Next one. Now wait just 1 second with LaTroy Hawkins.
Too long. I'm going fake. Too long.
But he just.
It would be wait just 1 second.
No, but it was.
Now wait just 1 second.
The now gave it away, Mike. You can't start with now.
He just wanted to make us laugh with the name LaTroy Hawkins, and he got Roy.
Now wait just 1 second with LaTroy Hawkins.
Wasn't LaTroy Hawkins like a great hold guy? Wouldn't it be like hold up? He was
hey man, don't give away the goods. You
it
say
would
fake?
not be called Hold Up, Chris. I
All right,
promise
but that
you.
is a great name for a podcast. Now wait just 1 second.
It is good. With an exclamation
It is
point.
fake. How about The Thing Is with Niger Morgan?
That should be with Pablo Torre.
Niger
I
Morgan?
believe that one is actually real. I'm going to go real for $1, Alex.
The Thing Is with Niger Morgan is not a real podcast. No shit.
Guy that fought Chris Volstead.
Side Retired, hosted by various middle relief pitchers.
That's a good podcast.
Because it's various relief pitchers, that sounds more reasonable to me that people wouldn't want the grind of a daily podcast. So I'm going to go real for that as well.
It is real. Wow. And finally, Batter's Eye with Brian Roberts.
That is also real. Although I don't know that it's Brian Roberts who does it, but there is a show called Batter's Eye, but it's very impetuous.
There is no podcast called Batter's Eye with Brian
All right,
Roberts.
so David Sampson is truly terrible at this game. Everyone is. It's sweeping the nation. Thank you, Mike. Please prepare for the end of this segment as quickly as you can. Would you attend their funeral? Because that's the hottest new game that we have around here, and David Sampson is the only one anywhere who plays it well. Are you Stan Van in or Stan Van out on the Marlins winning 10 straight road games suggests that this is actually going to be a good young team down the stretch?
I am Stan Van in that it's a great accomplishment that I never was able to accomplish, 10 in a row on the road. They are down to 7 games under 500. They're still got a lot of teams to climb over in the wild card. I am Stan Van out that they will be a wild card team, but I'm Stan Van in that there are major conversations happening between the owner and the president of baseball ops, Bruce Sherman and Peter Bendix, whether or not they should do a little bit of adding with their selling. Because if they stay this hot, it could lead to excitement, which often leads to tears. However, if Sandy keeps pitching well, and someone makes a huge offer, Peter's going to take it. What this 10-game road winning streak has done in winning these series in a row, like 6 or 7 in a row, it's made it so they're not going to settle for crap return for Sandy just to move the money. They're going to wait for a real return, and then if they keep him, they keep him for the rest of the season.
All right, David, let me just bring something up here because nobody actually nationally wants to hear about the Marlins, but more theoretically as it comes to baseball teams, okay? The original Marlins team, I think, started 30-31 and couldn't keep it up, lost 100 games because it was an old team of veterans and it's a long season. But when a young team does on the road what they've just done against good teams, like this isn't getting fat on anybody who's not good. When you win 10 straight games against the teams that they're playing against, all winning teams, and you're young, it suggests to me that you can get better over the second half of the season, that you've got such a young team that it actually might be good, that this isn't a team getting hot, that this is a team that has enough young talent that if the pitching stays healthy, it's something that you can count on them to hit.
Yeah, that's total recency bias, Dan, because there's a bunch of streaks that happen during the course of a season where you think like, wow, remember at the beginning of the season, the Pirates were maybe playing better, the Reds were playing fine, and then there was a time when the Blue Jays were out of it and done, and now they're 3 games up on the Yankees.
Are they good or not? Are they good or not?
The Marlins have good pieces. There's no question. They've done a great job, but they way better than Jeter, obviously, in getting stuff back and getting young players. The question is, when do you sprinkle it with veterans in order to make the complete team ready to make a run into October? And I think the ownership group will say not now.
I asked you a Stan Van in, Stan Van out question. You gave me 3 different answers without answering the one I was asking you. Is this a good team? Are you Stan Van in or Stan Van out?
Stan Van out.
Okay, you don't believe it because I believe young players who are hitting can get better over the course of a season. You might think they fade. You might be.
I just think there's regression. They're very hot and it's great. I love watching it. I don't want Coca, the producer, my esteemed producer, accuses me of always yucking on people's yum as though that's the currency we trade in on nothing personal. That's not correct. It's cool when your team is winning games. It's fun. Enjoy it. But it doesn't mean that the Dodgers have lost 5 in a row. Should we run around like our heads on fire, like they stink and that the Padres, Giants are going to catch them? No, they've lost 5 in a row. It's not the end of the world. And you've got to have that view on both sides.
But you don't. It doesn't have to be the end of the world. Like what? The end of the world?
Dan,
the end of the world.
You're right. It's not climate change. Sorry.
What kind of analysis is going to hold up in the face of that? Like, yes, over any 5 games, you can say something, anything about a baseball team. I don't want to talk about the Marlins anymore. I've kept them I'm actually interested in what it is that they're doing. But I want to go back to you saying that Bobby Valentine was a guest on Nothing Personal here. I thought, Zaslow, are you familiar with any of this? The backstory on Samson and Bobby Valentine is that Bobby Valentine had been hired to manage the Marlins, and Samson did an assortment of things with Bindfest behind the scenes to make it very hard for Bobby
vaguely
Valentine
remember that, yeah.
to actually take that job. Bobby Valentine would have liked that job. And so there was a lot of animosity between Valentine and David Samson. But Samson claimed that it was fine, that everything was good when they did a postseason run of baseball games last year on CBS together. They worked together, and they claimed that let's just hear the sound from the watch-along that we did with Tim Kirkshin. And you tell me, Zaslow, whether you think whether Bobby Valentine thinks that the hatchet is buried with David Samson. I was happy to hear that you and David Samson had buried the hatchet last postseason.
Well, I get. Is that a fact? I don't.
I mean, that doesn't sound like someone who thinks the hatchet's been buried, David.
Well, the objection there, Dan, is that the way you cut that audio is you didn't play what came next. So obviously that snippet would indicate that there is some serious hatchet still in existence. But if you listen to today's show or you watch what we did in the World Series last year, you would know that it was mostly buried with occasional doses of inflammation where truth came to the surface. And I was just honest with him and told him,
here, we'll play the rest of it.
Hold on. You from getting hired.
Hold on.
Well, I get. Is that a fact? I don't.
Okay, but he's claiming that we're creatively editing these things. We're not creatively editing these things. I think that Bobby Valentine is one of these strange creatures that actually doesn't mind conflict, kind of enjoys it, doesn't care how awkward it looks.
Yeah, I didn't. It was never awkward. The awkward part was having him not get hired after he was hired. And that was a moment I will never forget in my career, because we hadn't announced publicly that we were even firing the current manager, and we had already hired the new one in Bobby Valentine, and we had to get him fired because I knew it would not work out. And what's the easiest way to get someone fired is you tell the owner, our owner at the time, and you say, by the way, the manager will not take lineup suggestions. And pretty much that's the end of that.
David, is it a good Italian restaurant if they have an autographed photo of Bobby Valentine on the wall?
For sure.
I would be more apt to go to a Japanese restaurant with an autograph of Bobby Valentine.
Is it a good Italian restaurant if they have a photo that's autographed of Dennis Farina on the wall?
100%. Go make me a sandwich.
What is the
That's
best?
a Midnight Run reference. Sorry.
What is the best? Yes,
if you've got an autograph photo of Dennis Farina on your wall, you're at least 4.5 stars.
So he was a Chicago cop, correct? And give me a funnier name that you could possibly come up with for a photograph on a wall, because now it's got to conjure an image of a mustache. You guys go ahead and find Dennis Farina for me, because you guys will all
smile.
You will recognize this face. It will make the late Dennis Farina.
John Ashton.
Oh, that's a good mustache. That's a good mustache.
In an Italian restaurant, if they have Dennis Farina, former Chicago cop, who just had a great career as an actor, where you would simply look at him and he would make you happy because, well, you might not have liked Reindeer Games, but he was great in it.
Yeah. Do you have anything to declare? Yeah, don't go to England. I've got 3 more real or possibly fake podcasts. Hit the music.
All right, still with this game. Okay.
Is this a real baseball podcast? The Walkout with Lance McCullers and Carlos Correa. Is that a real baseball podcast?
God, that's such a great one, because McCullers, he's the last remaining with Altuve from 2017. That team. Correa left when they brought in Pena. I'm going to go not real, though.
So this one's a trick question. It is a real podcast, but it's about MMA. For some reason, hosted by Lance McCullers and Carlos Correa, the walkout they're referring to is the walkout to the Octagon. Next one up. Who's on first with Ryan Klesko?
I don't believe I've ever seen Ryan Klesko host a podcast. I'm going to go fake as well.
That's a good name, though.
It is a good
Well,
name.
but this is how you know they're fake, though. When you come up with a great name from the 90s that conjures a batting stance, we know it's not a real podcast, because why would Ryan Klesko be doing a podcast?
I mean, why would Lance McCullers be doing an MMA podcast? And finally, the baseball barista with Hunter Pence.
Yes.
This was a real podcast. It stopped putting out episodes in 2021, but the baseball barista with Hunter Pence was a real podcast.
And Mike, I don't know if the fix was in on this, but I got a call yesterday whether or not I'd be interested in having Hunter Pence on as a guest. And so the reason I went yes so quickly is I assumed he was promoting something or wanting to be a part of something. So I put it together. I'd never heard of that podcast, but that's how I got to
It
yes.
feels like it would be pretty on brand that it's not actually stopped or canceled. He just hasn't gotten around to making another episode, and he'd wait 4.5 years to do another one.
I like it.
I wanted to ask Samson about a story from a week ago before we get ready for Would You Attend Their Funeral? But Severino, I don't know if you guys saw, it was just such a curious thing that the A's gave big money out of nowhere to Severino. Now he's one of these guys with an ERA over 5, and he doesn't like playing in the ballpark. And I thought, David, you mentioned Correa. Correa was complaining about the minor league facilities at the ballpark. I think Zach Wheeler was complaining about the mound at the ballpark. We've got a couple of major league teams playing in beneath major league circumstances right now, correct?
Yeah, it's an issue. You've got Tampa right now playing at the Yankees spring training facility, and you've got the Athletics playing in a AAA facility in Sacramento. But where you're incorrect is the reason Severino got signed to that deal, it was a 3-year deal, let's say call it for $67 million, is part of the collective bargaining agreement required the A's to raise their payroll. So they had to increase, and they signed a pitcher, gave him the biggest contract Oakland organization had ever given, but it was to achieve a certain payroll number. So talk about great timing and talk about biting the hand that feeds you. I want Severino to be traded to an outpost. I want him to think that Sacramento was the place of his dreams. I was thinking maybe a team in the California Penal League, because he took this $20 million, and it's not like he's performing. The guy stinks and then sullies the stadium like, oh, I'm too good to be in Sacramento. You're right. How about Columbus?
That feels like a guess what, Greg Cody. You just hit him with the equivalent of a guess what.
Right. Guess what?
You're right.
That was on my list.
You're right, and then send him to the minor leagues.
Guess what? With Glenn Allen Hill was on my list.
Oh, excellent. Yes, I own that, though. I own it.
Did you see what it is that Samson just did? He punctuated the take by pointing straight at the camera and sending Severino to the minor leagues.
I know. That was forceful. That's why he's the great broadcaster he is, David Samson.
Nothing personal. Every day, 2 hours as part of the Le Batard and Friends Network and as part of the DraftKings Network. Before we review the movie here, let's play a game of Would You Attend Their Funeral? Can I get the happy music?
David, would you attend Perry Hill's funeral?
Absolutely not.
What? Whoa!
Bone.
No.
Whoa!
Perry Hill is not someone who I will ever see again.
Wait, one of the great infield coaches of all time. What do you?
One of the great PR infield coaches of all time.
Whoa. He's a
So,
politician now.
That's hate.
What?
No, it's not hate. It's nothing personal. It's actually, here's the thing.
With Niger Morgan.
Here's the thing.
DraftKings Network, by the way, for the folks at home watching on the Dan Le Batard YouTube, our show starts at 8 a.m., not 9 a.m. We added an extra hour. The thing with Perry Hill is that he did a lot of work behind the scenes that made my job harder, and I want people who work to make my job easier. So in my entire career, Wall Street, wherever I've been, no one's made my job harder to do than Perry Hill. And to me, that eliminates any chance that I will go to your funeral.
Can you give an example of that?
Yeah. How would an infield
Yes, when you
coach?
go right to the owner to demand certain player position moves, when you go right to the owner over the GM's head, over the manager's head, knowing that you've got the owner's ear from your relationship back in the Texas, Oklahoma City days, where you can demand whatever salary you want, but actually not want to do the extra work to deserve it. Oh God, wait, you want me to keep going? I'm just getting started, Zaz.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Perry Hill is known to be one of the.
I'm just getting started is a great name for a podcast.
Perry Hill is known in baseball circles as one of the nicest and friendliest people you will ever meet.
What circles are you talking about?
Media. He was great with the media.
Oh, yeah, Greg,
saying.
that's good. We should draw a correlation between the people who have the best relationship with members of the media, as though that is an indicator. Forget leading. It's not even lagging in terms of what it means inside a clubhouse or what it means. Now, did he make players better? Did I love when he stuck a thing right in the infield to tell people where to play? I'm in. But guess what? When we replaced him, when he retired because he wanted so much money that finally we got to Jeffrey and said, this is absurd. The only way we'll give that much money is if his name is Barry Bonds, and then we'll lie about it. And then Perry comes back because he had whatever. No. There are plenty of great infield coaches out there.
Wow. There was a guess what in the middle of that Samson threw in trying to hone in on Cody's game over here.
Samson is not only not going to Perry Hill's funeral, he's going to picket it. You're going to go out there, you're going to carry a sign.
This is shocking sound.
I will not allocate time to picket someone's funeral. Are you kidding me, Greg? I'm on the clock right now.
But real good live podcast.
Real quick, real or fake podcast. I'm just getting warmed up with Darren Oliver.
Why Darren Oliver?
Because it's a
he's
funny
just
90s
getting warmed
name.
up. He's a long reliever that's just getting warmed up.
That's his
telling
tell.
stories.
But that's his tell, David. Don't you see?
And long reliever. That's what he does.
His tell is just funny names from the 90s is all he's doing. It's fake.
I'm
it's
just
not a
getting
funny
warmed
name.
up with Darren Oliver.
I'm going to say fake.
Yes.
All right, it is fake. Would you attend Ozzie Guillen's funeral?
In Chicago or in Venezuela?
Dealer's choice.
Well, no to Venezuela. I would zoom into that one. And I would do it. I would go to Chicago for sure because I would like to see Ozzy and the children and his wife. And I would like to celebrate what he did with us as a Marlins third base coach. And I would like to honor him for winning the World Series in 2005 in Chicago. So, yes, I would go to Ozzy's funeral as long it was in Chicago, and I could fly into O'Hare and get to downtown, not during traffic. That would be critical piece of travel.
I've got to apologize to the audience. I've been disoriented. Like, I'm not totally here because those are the most shocking words ever spoken publicly about Perry Hill. Like, I don't even know
master.
I just don't know what to do. Like, right now, he just unmasked Perry Hill in a way no one's ever seen before.
But Dan, all you had to do was ask. And I'm not begrudging the fact that we won a World Series together. I'm not begrudging the fact that he has a family or that he wants to work for a living. I'm not begrudging that. You asked me, would I go to his funeral? And I said no, trying to explain to you why I wouldn't, which is quite simple. Why would I go to the funeral of someone who made my life miserable day in and day out by stepping over the head of his manager, by stepping over the head of his general manager, his president of baseball operations, to have a direct line to the owner to effectuate changes that would benefit him? Why would I go to that funeral?
Is he aware that you feel this way?
Of course. I've told him. I don't let things fester, Dan. People around Meadowlark may not realize that, but you should. I don't let it fester. It was a great day when we were finally able to convince Jeffrey to allow for the departure of Perry Hill.
I am just floored, and I'm sorry, America, that we have unleashed this.
He just wiped
David
his face.
Samson just that right there is how you punctuate a take. Wiping the froth off your face with a kerchief. That is a new lane for you, Samson.
That was like a pricey.
Where you totally rip someone, you disgrace someone who's had a pristine reputation in public for 30 years, and then you just wipe the spittle off your mouth because it's come so easy to you.
It wasn't spittle on my mouth. It was schwitz on my brow.
Nice kerchief.
Let's review the movie of the week, please. What is it that you're reviewing this week?
I cannot get enough of the Trainwrecked episodes. I'm addicted to them. And I haven't gotten to American Apparel, but I will. But I watched the Mayor of Mayhem, and I kept thinking I was watching a Saturday Night Live skit with Chris Farley. That's the only thing that was in my head the whole time. The mayor in Toronto was this guy named Rob Ford. I had no idea that the guy croaked. I only knew him as the crazy mayor who was trying to be like Ed Koch Part 7, where, hey, how am I doing? I'm Ed Koch. And he would go around, unlikely to be voted as mayor, became mayor, and it became a nightmare because he was on video doing crack, literally doing crack in a crack pipe. I don't know that it was a crack den, but it was a crack pipe. And he denied it. He was going to go down full denial. He said, show me the video. They showed the video. He keeps denying it, and it was him. And then he got a little PR help, and he had to admit that it was him. And what do you do when you're found to be a sex addict or a crack addict? What's the first thing you do? You guys know. You go to rehab. That's what he did. He went to rehab and then came back and then died of cancer.
The Trainwreck series has some stuff that's just very easy to watch. Poop Cruise. This is empty calories, what he's mentioning here. This is 50 minutes of, yes, what does it look like when a politician before Trump goes the shameless route of trying to hide in public that he's a crack fiend, that he's publicly, like he's running around all of Toronto, basically doing drugs in places, and there's video everywhere because he hasn't accounted for the internet age.
He denied the video, which is, I think it's very silly to deny the existence of a video unless you know for sure you've never smoked crack. Once you've smoked it, you've got to assume that someone was witnessing that.
Maybe he didn't know for sure that he smoked crack.
Put it on the poll.
He was smoking crack.
Put it on the poll, please. Once you've smoked crack, do you have to concede that it's probably on video somewhere?
Maybe the video was an AI simulation.
Well, they could do that now, but that wouldn't have been something then. There wasn't a way for him to deny his way out of it. The video was pretty obvious.
But you can deny, if you know you've never smoked crack, you can deny a video of yourself if you know you've never smoked it, because then it could be AI. It could be they put your face on someone's body.
That was what was great about his denial wasn't, hey, Mayor, you were smoking crack on video. His denial was, there's no video.
Right.
This is what David Samson is objecting to from a Barry Jackson article in 2018. Perry Hill would call up the official scorer during games to try to get errors taken away from his infielders to add earned runs to his own pitchers so he could look better as an infield coach. That was the accusation that Samson made at Perry Hill's at Perry Hill's resume.
It's not an accusation. That's a fact.
Wow. You should go to a funeral.
Go find out. Tell
that.
Pablo Torre to go find an official scorer at Pro Player. That's a fact.
I mean,
and listen, it is what it is.
Isn't that like pitching coaches do that for pitchers, infielders? Like, isn't everybody kind of doing that?
You don't call the official scorer during the game.
What a waste of Pablo Torre's time. What were you saying, Cody?
David, you should go to Perry Hill's funeral, give the eulogy, and just let all this out in the eulogy.
Yes, because you are taking out a man who has had a pristine reputation.
Right. I'm not taking him out, Dan. Stop with that.
The parting
shot
shot
clip
would
it
be
and aggregate
yours.
it. That's fine. I'm not saying anything that has not been said or felt.
I'm
going to
make a documentary about what it is you've done here today. You have taken out Perry Hill, and you did so making this sound, by the way, which isn't something we've ever heard before in the history of the show.
Oh, yeah.
Like, what is that? What is that? We asked you about Perry Hill, and this is you, professional broadcaster David Samson.
Oh, yeah. That sounds like AI.
No, that was you.
You can hear the game show music underneath it.
No, that was you earlier in the show. You were reacting to something. I thought you were reacting to Mike Ryan asking you if you would go to Perry Hill's funeral, and it was so obvious to you that you wouldn't that before you said no, I think you did this.
Oh, yeah.
Parting shot with Marge Shot. Real or fake?
There weren't podcasts when she was alive.
Mike, that's terrible.
That's good.
Then that's not
good. One,
good.
Mike.
No, that's not good.
Great.
Parting shot with Marge Shot who's been dead for 20 years. She was dead before podcasts. Like,
she would have a lot to say right now.
It would have been called I'm on a Heater.
David, thank you for playing all of our games with us. Nothing Personal is the name of the podcast. Stan Van In and Stan Van Out is the exclusive domain copywritten by David Samson, so don't anybody try to take it. It's all his. Thank you, David. Good talking to you.
Take care. Oh, yeah.
Can you guys find where it is he said that?
I love him denying it, like as if we could create that quick.
This is AI, as if we're that creative.
Oh, yeah.
That
Did
is
not smoke crack.
That is the way that a cartoon rooster dies if you taser it.
Oh, yeah.
Sunset Gears with comedian Rob Delaney.
I really am thrilled to be doing this, Rob, because I admire your work a great deal, and it's rare that I find somebody from afar that I've been wanting to talk to because their story seems somehow something even more admirable to me. Now, you might not view it this way. I don't know how much nobility you think there is in your story, but in watching the art that you've made and watching the life that you've chosen, it's sort of been a pleasure to watch your work grow and to see, you know, the things that you are choosing late in life to do artistically.
Well, that's very kind of you to say. Thank you, and thank you for acknowledging that I am late in my life. There's a refreshing honesty to that. I am 45, so I'm well more than halfway.
45 is
there.
late in life.
I mean, I do think about it though sometimes. Though, like I'm definitely more than halfway done, and that's funny. Isn't that funny?
How does it feel to be told that you're late in life by someone who is considerably older than you?
Who's a great deal older than me? It's strange. I wonder, does he know things about, does he have access to my medical file? Has he seen things that I haven't seen?
I just feel like, I feel through your art like you've lived more than I have. It's really what I'm doing there, in the having of 4 kids, in the choosing work-life balance, in learning life's lesson. I just think that I was atrophied as a as a young person.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the things that that I've experienced that maybe most people haven't are, you know, I did get sober 20 years ago after going to jail after a car accident that I was responsible for, and I've stayed sober, so that's been pretty cool. I've had the unbelievable good fortune to make a living in comedy, and of course I didn't for a long time before I did, so that was challenging. And then, but the biggest thing would be that my wife and I, one of our sons got cancer and passed away a few years ago. So those are the big things that I've been through that I think, you know, are place me in sort of a strange minority. I think I covered it all.
Well, life-altering things,
Yeah.
right? Because arriving at comedy success must have been the realization of your dreams, right? You came from, your comedy story there aren't a lot of people who had comedy success the way you did, just sort of discovered by social media. I can say that, right?
Oh, sure, yeah. It came at an interesting time because I was trying very hard to get hired by, say, Jimmy Kimmel, Conan O'Brien, you know, writing jokes by the stack, by the physical paper stack, you know, because I'm submitting 2-liner jokes, you know, by the pound to try to get hired as a late night writer. So then Twitter comes along and I've got piles of jokes that no one will pay me for, no one wants. And I mean, I send them to people and they're like, no thanks, you know, or these are great, but still no thanks. And so I had a place to focus this stuff. So it was sort of a right place, right time kind of a thing. So myself and, you know, many other people around the same time figured, oh, you know, Twitter's not just for posting, you know, recipes and, you know, things like that. It can also be for jokes. And so I really lucked out that came along at the right time for me.
Vision or happenstance?
Happenstance, purely.
So you don't have success in comedy? If not for that, you're just another rejected writer writing stacks of jokes that doesn't get an avenue towards success?
Oh, you never know. I mean, I have a work ethic that I can at least say about myself. So, and I'm nice. You know, I think that might be part of being sober and having success come a little later in life, but I still am as nice as possible. So people will rehire me after they work with me. So maybe I would have had success through both my two-pronged approach of working hard and being nice. Because that goes pretty far, you learn, after some time passes, some decades pass, and people start to evaporate. Or you get the job of somebody who, talent-wise, absolutely deserves it more, but maybe they're a jerk, you know, or they just forget to set their alarm, and then you get their job, and then, you know, screw them.
Your kindness is displayed in this segment where a 53-year-old man dressed like he's going to the Vans Warped Tour called you old.
Precisely.
He just said success later in life, and I let him slide on it. He just got done saying success later in life, and I'm like, so you acknowledge you are later than in life.
It's sunset for me.
I meant it.
I think you finessed that answer out of him.
I meant it as awkward admiration for this man has lived and learned and put down. I just see in your work that you've put down your ego, and it's beautiful to see art flourish there.
I don't know what that means, what you just said, that I put down my ego. I genuinely, can you elaborate?
I think that you are only choosing projects right now, that you have a unique freedom in comedy where you can choose projects now because Catastrophe was such a unique success. That your life story is intertwined in it. You're learning about yourself as you're telling the story. It is unfathomable, the range you show in it as someone who is producing the whole thing with a partner, but it's you guys making a hit television show cheaply that is smart and funny and layered, and you made it, and from there you can make all the choices in life. And you've lived and learned enough to know that you have to choose wisely there because you want to be with your kids and you want to have life balance, and professional ego has gotten you in trouble.
Gotcha, yeah. So yeah, one thing that I do now is like I'll turn down work, and my agents and stuff will be like, "Are you kidding me? Do you know how much money that would be?" But because my success came in my sunset years, and I now am like, well, but I don't need that money. Do you understand? They gave me, like, I can afford pants and eggs and things. Like I wouldn't know what to do with more money. So I have like way less money than other people in this industry, but because I can afford to pay my rent with it, like that's my wildest dreams achieved. So I don't get lured by money now. It's, do I like the job? So yeah, for the moment I'm very lucky in that aspect.
But what I've read about you though, it seems like a unique Hollywood value system. Am I wrong about this?
My value system is a little bit different in that I do it by the time the project will take, because I know more about time than your average civilian, because I don't have any more of it left with one of my kids, you know? And so I don't mess around when it comes to how long will a job take or where does it shoot. Those are massively critical factors in me choosing a job. If I write anything, I make sure to set it in my neighborhood so that I can walk to it. Or I write a book, which I'm doing right now, so that I can just write that in my underwear in my home. As long as my kids aren't in it, because kids don't let you do things, even in your own house. But yeah, I don't do it based on prestige or money. I do it based on time, proximity.
And celebrates the legacy of Norm Macdonald. Rest in power.
Norm Macdonald passed away. It was a surprise to many. He had kept his illness a secret for 9 years. And he was one of our favorite celebrity prognosticators because he did awkward comedy, uncomfortable comedy so very well. He would insult people to their face. There has not been and will never be a greater ESPYs than Norm Macdonald doing the monologue and actually cutting through all the mythological fame bullshit and actually going after people, going after the big, powerful celebrities in a way that the audience loved, and ESPN immediately ended and regretted and got him out of there, never to host it again. But he loved awkward. He was so good at awkward, and this is the thing that always impresses me, Stugotz, because the level of discerning among stand-up comics who are great is the highest form of critique or judgment, I think, in entertainment. And when they say someone's a good comedian, that person's a good comedian. Norm Macdonald is somebody who's getting reverence today from a lot of people, but other comedians will tell you what he did was really brilliant, was genius. We had our experience with him because he would tell these long, sprawling stories, and he told, most famously, a bad beat story that was just a killer because he was a gambler, but he was a bad gambler. And one of the reasons we wanted him as celebrity prognosticator is because he cared about it, but he was kind of a loser. And what says loser more than this bad beat? For no particular reason, Juju, put it on the poll, please. Is there anything more pathetic than the mustache before it's fully grown in at Le Batard Show?
Fair.
It's just pathetic.
I know,
It's
it is
just
terrible.
It just feels like you've missed a spot shaving,
Yeah,
and you're just
just
going to go
awful.
full mustache. You're going to go Mike Ryan and just mustache. You're
Yeah.
going to no goatee, nothing.
Nope.
Soon, Greg Cody. When's the last time Greg Cody had just a mustache?
Greg goatee. It's been a while. It's been a long, long time.
Oh.
No, it really is bad. Yeah,
Yeah, it's
I get
pathetic.
that,
It
yeah.
just and
It's
that's
sad.
like 10 days of growth,
Yeah,
right?
it's sad. No, it's not 10. Come on. I think I began not shaving my upper lip 3 or 4 days ago.
I wanted to ask you about the thing that's in the news today as we are gobbling up any crumb of football information that you will give us with this sport about 8 weeks out or so, not that long before football is here. One of the more curious stories last year, I thought, and somewhat unexplained, was Kirk Cousins in Atlanta. And he has finally said on the new Netflix series Quarterbacks, he's still in Atlanta, by the way.
That's what he said.
I couldn't believe that.
He had to
Because he's
say
a part
it.
of this.
He had to say it in order for me to believe it.
He was part of this quarterback show. I'm like, yeah, what happened to him? It was a foregone conclusion. He was going to switch teams, and nope. And just contract too prohibitive. I guess he's just there being lied to by Atlanta.
Well, he said a little bit misled is what he said. And Kirk Cousins, he said that he would have stayed in Minnesota if he had known they were going to draft Michael Penix or draft anybody that high, that he felt a little bit misled. And I thought it was fair criticism from him. Like, I think you're entitled to know when making your decisions whether a future employer has slightly more than a few months really invested in you. And it would have affected his decision. He was saying, I would have just stayed in Minnesota. He would have imagined himself having the season that Sam Bradford just had.
I mean, as long as they pay you the same, do they owe you that info?
Sam Darnold.
I think so.
Okay, but these are two different things, right? Like, there's one part where he's saying, I felt misled. I wouldn't have signed there because there's a finite amount of time he has. It's not going to be multiple years once they draft Michael Penix. But he certainly had more than a few months if he played well. Like, he was terrible, and then they pulled the plug. That wasn't their intention to pull the plug on him. They would have desperately wanted Michael Penix to take 0 snaps last year. He took snaps because Cousins was bad.
Yeah, that's a bad combination. Playing poorly, that salary, and being that age.
Kirk Cousins had a couple of games there, which he promptly got. I don't even think it was promptly, because there were 3 consecutive weeks where he was very clearly done. The interceptions that he was throwing in the end zone were as bad as you've ever seen.
What I didn't understand, he was missing very basic throws, and it made me just think he was injured. And I was waiting for this Netflix series to find out how injured was he, because his arm strength didn't seem to be the same. There would be just these little outs that he was throwing into the turf, and I'm like, wait a minute, this is somebody who's accurate. Like, I don't recognize this quarterback after a few weeks. And one of the reasons that I'm interested in the Netflix series is to see what the mental approach is when you've come out of Minnesota, you go to Atlanta, they've invested in you as if you're a big-time quarterback. You are one of the great thieves who hasn't won anything at the position because you've made so much money, and it would have been better to be in Minnesota last year. He would have had a much easier time of it, where you're not trying to make Kyle Pitts into what we all thought he was going to be in college, and you've got Justin Jefferson instead. But I want to ask Zaz, because I've again made this Sam mistake, evidently, where I don't I did this after the Stanley Cup final where I'm sitting there making the mistake of confusing Sam Bennett and Sam Reinhart.
Unforgivable.
And you ruled that it was unforgivable, and so I'd like to get a ruling right now because I just did it again with Sam Darnold. Did you see? I don't trust Sam's. Like Sam's in sports are giving me trouble, and I want to see if the mistake that I just made. Did you hear the mistake that I just made?
What did you refer to Darnold as? You call him Bradford?
Bradford.
I called him Sam Bradford, and so I'm getting my Sam's. I've got a glitch somewhere in the system that makes Sam Darnold Sam Bradford and Sam Reinhart Sam Bennett, and it's because I don't think anybody who's Sam can be good at sports. And I'd like to add a Norman to the conversation, by the way, since we're talking about Norman Powell today. You can only that there's a ceiling on how good a Norman or a Sam can be at sports before I'm like, that's as good as he's going to be. He's going to be about as good as Sam Bradford.
Wow.
So let's see if this get a ruling here on is this forgivable? Is this a forgivable mistake or unforgivable? Do I need to pay a fine for my Sam Bradford mistake?
Not being able to tell the difference between Minnesota Viking quarterbacks. If it was Sam Bradford, who I do believe at one point was a Minnesota Viking quarterback.
Well, is it a forgivable mistake?
And Sam Darnold. Forgivable.
Whoa, really?
Shocking.
Yeah.
Really.
Forgivable.
Yeah, you mentioned that.
Forgiven.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. The thing that I wanted to ask you, Greg, is Kirk Cousins. Is it fair that he feels misled? Like, did he deserve something better than that from the Atlanta Falcons when he was a free agent? And does a potential employer owe you that as some kind of truth? Or, sorry, it's cold as business?
I think a veteran of that accomplishment and that longevity deserves the truth from his general manager. It can be, we want to draft Michael Penix, but we think he's a year and a half away. We definitely want you next season. And after that, let's see. But Kirk Cousins needs to come to the realization that he's on that path that Andy Dalton was on. He's on the path that Russell Wilson is now on. He's the former quarterback, the aging former starting quarterback of great accomplishment, pretty good career accomplishment.
Greg, you realize
now over the hill.
You realize how fast that happened, though,
Yeah.
because it happened in 7 games.
Yeah.
It happened in 7 games last season where he's the answer. What? Atlanta's going to invest in that? Oh, never mind.
See, he's got a long future. He's got 5-6 more years if he's willing to be the savvy backup.
Okay, but Greg,
Does he, though? He's 36. This is where quarterbacks historically age, and Tom Brady just changed all the math for us. Same way with Drew Brees, who kind of started tailing off as he approached 40. And these are all-time great quarterbacks. It would make sense that a guy like Kirk Cousins hits a wall at 35. It makes all the sense in the world. History is your indicator.
That is correct. It's just the 6 games that catches me off guard, and it's not what Atlanta was banking on. And when he says that it's the coldness of the business, that he's got to go out there and prove himself over the year or months, I don't know how it affects someone mentally to believe they've just changed their entire life for an employer. They've left the safety of where it is they were for the pressure of, I agree to be the nuclear epicenter of your football city. I agree to contract terms. How much faith does my employer have in me? Oh, half a season. It's half a season of faith. It's not a season, 2 seasons. It's not we're going to groom Michael Penix for 18 months from now. You cannot tell me that Kirk Cousins went into last season thinking that by this season he'd be in the position you're talking about him in, which is he's got to accept that he is now that he's Andy Dalton now when he just signed a $100 million contract and believes that he would have been in Minnesota what either Sam Bradford or Sam Darnold would have been last year.
It was just really confusing, and you feel for Kirk Cousins a little bit in that he made that decision. He had plenty of suitors, and he got a hefty payday for it. Everyone settled on, okay, that's the direction that Atlanta is going in. But then they drafted Penix, and then everybody would have told you, yeah, midseason, Kirk Cousins is probably going to struggle a little bit like he usually does. Hits a little rough patch, and then everybody will be calling for the first-round draft pick to come in. It became super obvious when they made that draft pick. The whole thing that was bizarre was, well, if you're going to make that draft pick, why'd you sign Kirk Cousins to one of the richest deals in the history of the sport?
Correct.
But Minnesota signed J.J. McCarthy. They were going to move on from him, too. And that's the reason that Aaron Rodgers didn't end up in Minnesota. Old quarterbacks have to face Their reality. I'm going to use the Dolphins as an example. With Tua's injury status,
go on.
He's still a young quarterback. The last thing they need is a Zach Wilson as a backup. They needed an Andy Dalton, a Kirk Cousins as their backup, and there are a dozen teams like that.
Is
throughout
Kirk
the NFL.
Cousins doing revisionist history? I do believe my history is, Kirk Cousins, if he had wanted to stay in Minnesota, would have stayed in Minnesota and probably would have had a season that looked a lot like Sam Darnold's or Sam Bradford's.
I know it. Off base with Xavier Scruggs.
There's no way that that's a podcast.
Off base with Xavier Scruggs.
Are all
real or fake?
Are all the names taken?
Real or fake?
I just said it's fake. There's no way.
It's real. Off base with Xavier Scruggs. A poker pod called Two Aces with Dallas Keuchel and Aaron Nola. A poker pod called Two Aces.
Why would you make that up?
With Dallas Keuchel and Aaron Nola.
Why wouldn't you make that up?
By the way, Perry Hill is still in the big leagues with the Seattle Mariners. Incoming. That's a news story in Seattle. Like the disgrace that has been brought on Perry Hill, eternal nice guy, by David Sampson is going to become a news story in
We
Seattle.
demand a response, Perry Hill. You have till the end of the business. Two Aces. A poker pod with Dallas Keuchel and Aaron Nola.
I'm going to guess yes.
That is a fake podcast.
Oh, no. It should be.
Take a Waka with Michael Waka. Real or fake?
That's not real.
Take a Waka.
No. That's not right.
Take a Waka with Michael Waka.
That's not
is a
real
fake
thing.
podcast.
We're cooking now. We're cooking.
Built for the Storm with Jeremy Affeldt. Built for the Storm with Jeremy Affeldt. Real or fake?
What do you do? Why are you making faces?
I just don't understand. Like, who cares what Jeremy Affeldt has to say?
I just cared a minute ago what Dallas Keuchel had to say about poker.
Real or fake? Built for the Storm. Jeremy Affeldt. Two Aces. You get it because it's about poker and they used to pitch. Jeremy Affeldt's Built for the Storm podcast is indeed
it's
real.
Not that I didn't get it. I believed it. I believed that they got with their marketing teams and they put together a hell of a podcast. Yeah.
World Series of Poker's going on. The Hot Corner with Todd Zeal.
No, that's not a podcast.
That is indeed fake. You got me.
No, but you've got the tell of anything. There is nobody doing a baseball podcast who is a player who made me laugh in the 90s with merely their name.
Turning 2 with Brandon Phillips and Orlando Cabrera.
They're not friends in real life.
Come on, 2010 Reds.
No, I don't believe that they're truly friends. I wanted to ask you, Greg Cody, about what Urban Meyer was quoted as saying, because Urban Meyer, it is amusing to me to continually see him, no matter what the controversy is, be able to sort of climb his way into a place where no one cares what's in his mercenary past. He can continue to traffic off of being whatever Urban Meyer was, that was a god in college and a disgrace in the pros. There are very few human beings who have gone to the pros and can't last a season in that job. I think Lou Holtz was one of them, where you're just a college coach and you had the ego of a professional coach, and as soon as you got to the pros and exhibited that ego in a way that had no humility in it, you got run off within a year. Like, you are, in terms of you being access to leadership vocal guy as a college sports authority, I cannot tell you how much you pale compared to Nick Saban even, who only lasted 1 year in that position, but not quite with the disgrace of going straight to becoming a clown because of his professional experience. And Urban Meyer now says that he was offered a job to sort of be a general manager for a college football program. And his response was, dealing with the agents of 17 and 18-year-old kids, I would rather put a rusty nail in my foot, step on a rusty nail, and take it out myself than do that. Do you guys think it's that much different dealing with an agent than whatever it is he was dealing with before, when it was the families and the brokers and the friends of the economy. Like, do you guys think that what he's saying, why would Urban Meyer think himself better than agents when all he is
Yeah, but it must be so much different.
An agent. But
like, otherwise he wouldn't say that. He dealt with it before. It must be so much different, right?
But he's the same creature is what I'm saying. Agents dealing with Urban Meyer are dealing with the same sort of economy salesman that Urban Meyer thinks he's dealing with when he's dealing with the agent for a 17 or 18-year-old. The reason Urban Meyer doesn't want to deal with the agent for a 17 or 18-year-old because he's always been the agent for the 17 or 18-year-old. He's more comfortable with that structure than the one that's presently in place where you take away his power and now you give that agency to somebody who actually is around the money, and you've neutered Urban Meyer. He can't run a program that way.
Paul Feinbaum was on First Take, and he revealed that Urban Meyer once told him that Cam Newton is the worst player he ever dealt with. He once coached a murderer.
You guys do understand, right? The mythology that we sort of build around these glorified salesmen make it so that Urban Meyer thinks he's better than these agents when he makes his money the same way. Like, he thinks he's above them when all he did was traffic in 17 and 18 years old. And when he had to deal with men, he could not. Like, they ran him out of the league in a year, a laughingstock. Didn't respect him. Nick Saban kept his respect. Nick Saban could go back to college and not be this used car salesman mercenary that Urban Meyer is while still grifting off the game. Like, he's still making his money as a powerhouse voice on television because people extend him a credibility that suggests he's less used car salesman than he actually is.
The triple option with Urban Meyer.
That is a fast ascending podcast I've seen.
That is real.
Who's on that podcast?
Mark Ingram and Rob Stone.
Yeah, okay. I heard funny things about that podcast because that podcast is ascending, but I'm guessing that Fox would like it to be ascending for them.
What did you hear about it?
No, I'm just saying, like, that is a very popular national college football podcast, but it also is something that should seemingly belong to Fox that belongs to other people because they just went out and did the same thing away from Fox that they were doing on Fox.
Well, if Fox is interested in getting the game, ain't no change in it with Zadarius Smith is out there for the plucking.
Can we get that up and running by the end of the day? I want our fans to make that actually climb because there is
by the end of the day.
There's a domain name. I want, at the very least, I just want a link for our fans to be able. It could be Mike Ryan with a fake voice just giving the intro to this podcast until we've located Zadarius. Look who we've located here. It has been much too long since we have seen Ron McGill. He has been in Australia. I am upset that Billy Gill is not here today because I thought that Billy Gill blasphemed while you were away, and I wanted you to correct the people here who all were mocking the Everglades as a national park. All of these spoiled South Floridians who've gotten used to what our wildlife is here, they say that the Everglades stinks when it comes to national park status compared to all of the last place they ranked it, the Everglades, in national parks. And I wanted Ron McGill to set him straight because just because we're used to how unusual our wildlife is doesn't mean there's not more amazing wildlife in the Everglades than there is just about anywhere.
Absolutely. You're absolutely correct. I mean, you go into the Everglades and you can see, 20, 30 species of birds, alligators, turtles, snakes. I mean, there's so much wildlife, but you have to take the time to look at it. Now, granted, when you first drive into the Everglades, it's flat. It seems to be somewhat a monoculture, not a lot of different species of trees. But when you look at it closer, oh my gosh, you got to give it time and things start coming out of nowhere. I mean, it is a plethora of wildlife, all kinds of great wildlife. Like I said, granted, it doesn't give you that initial impact like when you go into Yosemite and you see, Half Dome, and you see these massive mountains and waterfalls. I'll give you that. But when you sit and look closer, the amount of wildlife that you will see will put something like Yosemite to shame.
I don't think that the average person would believe that.
You don't have to argue that for Yellowstone. Hey, take a closer look. Look, if you really look at it, there's all these different types of trees. We like topography here. Points against.
Take a closer look.
I actually had that on my list. Take a closer look. With Eric Gagne, take a closer look.
Take a closer look with Angel Hernandez.
That's great.
Ron, you just got back from Australia. You've been gone for a while. We have a big fan base in Australia. How were your travels?
Dude, it was incredible. One of the first things that happened to me is some guy comes up to me in Melbourne, Australia, and goes, "Oh my God." Well, I can't do the Australian accent, but he had it very strong. He goes,
Please try. Please try.
I can't. Yeah, mate, you're on McGill. I go, yeah. He goes, oh, I'm a big fan. I listen to the Le Batard Show. Are you kidding me? I actually took a picture with the guy. I'll text it to you because the guy comes up to me and goes, I can't believe you're here. I go, I can't believe you just came up to me and said you're a big fan of the Le Batard Show in Australia on the other side of the world. And it happened more than once. It was incredible. It happened in Sydney as well. So, kudos to you guys. You guys are doing a great job.
Well, that can't be the best thing from your travels, though. I wasn't
No,
asking.
it was far from the best thing from my travels.
So what did you see that was foreign? What did you see that you had never seen before?
Okay, a lot of things that I'd never seen before in the wild, but the number one holy grail that made me literally tear up was seeing a platypus in the wild. A flippin' platypus. We traveled up through this rainforest road, and they only come out. They're very rare, first of all, incredibly secretive. It's one of only 2 egg-laying mammals in the world, the echidna and the platypus. This thing looks like it was put together by a Dr. Seuss puppet. Okay, it's got a duck bill, it's got little beady eyes, it's got a beaver tail, it's got flippers like an otter. It's an unbelievable little animal. Only one of 2 egg-laying mammals. Only comes out like 1 hour before and after sunrise, 1 hour before and after sunset. You'll only see it on the water. You don't see them on land because they only live in a burrow on land, but they spend all their time in the water. And man, we went up to this little lake. It was like this, you drive up this rainforest road and all of a sudden it opens up and there's this little lake. It was so ethereal. There's not one single person anywhere to be seen. All you hear are like the kookaburras, and these kookaburras and all different kinds of sounds and frogs. And this lake is just like mirror glass. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, if I see a platypus here, I'm going to lose my flipping mind. And sure enough, no more than 10, 15 minutes, he points and goes, there. I go, look. And I saw like this little silver thing on the top of the water. I said, what is that? And then I saw it go down. I go, oh my God, is that a platypus? He goes, yes. Patience. We're in a little canoe. We can't make any noise. I literally had to take the shutter sound off of my camera. Thankfully, my camera can shoot silently so it doesn't make the shutter sound, because he says, even if they hear the shutter sound, they'll disappear. So we stayed perfectly still. And to make a long story short, we saw about 7 different platypuses, and one of them actually came right up to the flipping canoe and looked at me. I couldn't believe it. I was shaking so hard. I was wondering if I was ever going to get a sharp picture, but I did, and that's like the holy grail for me. So that is the pinnacle. Then seeing the freaking cassowary in the Daintree Forest, the place that Sir David Attenborough called his favorite place in the world. Okay. The cassowary is considered the most dangerous bird in the world, has a huge middle claw that can eviscerate you in a second. Flightless bird, but can stand over 5 feet tall. And man, we saw this thing come out of the forest. I couldn't believe I saw it in the wild. Not just one, but 2, an adult and a youngster. Fantastic experience, man.
You said 7
There it is.
platypuses. You said 7 platypuses. Is that the accurate way to say it? I thought it was.
I don't know. I don't know if it was platypi, platypuses, or just platypus. I don't know.
What about platypussies?
Put it on the poll, please, at Le Batard Show.
I knew you were going there, Mike. I knew you were going there. And that's why I tried to deflect it as fast as I could, but no, you stuck with it.
At Le Batard Show, the plural of platypus, platypus-I or platypuses. I'm not doing yours, Mike.
Thank you, Dan.
At Le Batard Show, but also put on the poll, did you know that the platypus was incredibly secretive and hard to see? Because that's not something that I knew. And this runs contrary. What's making you weep there, they seem wildly unimpressed with. Oh, really? Ron went all the way to the other side of the country to see the top of the head of a platypus in the water.
Well, I saw that the head, the tail, the whole 9 yards I saw in the water, and I saw up to 7 of them. And yes, it is pretty flippin' incredible. But you guys are so shallow-minded, you'd be more impressed with seeing, someone do some stupid sports trick. Okay. Yeah,
I'm not with them on this, but I can just see they're unimpressed by what it is that you're trying to tell them, even though the platypus is one of the most amazing cartoon creatures there's ever been. That nose doesn't even make any sense. What's happening?
It's incredible, right? And it lays eggs, guys. It's a mammal that lays an egg. Come on. This is cool stuff.
We've got some other cool stuff to play for you here. I want you to tell me here what this is. This is buried in the sand on the beach here. You tell me what this animal is. You're always telling us how weird the sea is. If I were in the ocean or walking along the beach and doing this, and this is what I pulled out of the out of the sand.
No.
I don't.
Looks like an octopus of some sort.
No, is that an octopus? What is
That's
that?
not an octopus. That's some kind of arthropod, but I
That's
don't know.
an alien.
What
That's
is
not-
that?
It's some kind of some kind of arthropod, I believe. I'm not sure, but that's not my expertise, guys.
Okay, but that's not an octopus. Is
It's
that
not an
is that its eye? Is that its eye?
Better be.
What is
no,
that?
No, I think that's its mouth.
Okay. Are you sure?
I'm just trying.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure of anything.
All right, let's
Weird as
take a
hell.
guess right now when it comes out again, and I will say eye, mouth, or ass. What is that that's coming out of the water right there at the top? Eye, you have to be right. Eye, mouth, or ass?
I'm saying mouth.
Greg, paint the picture for the audio audience. What are they looking at here?
It's a real ugly thing coming out of the mud with something that looks like an asshole.
All right, good words. Good
mouth.
good use of words for a writer. That is not helpful to the audio audience.
There are tentacles.
It's
That's
kind-
why I
that-
said
that
octopus.
no, but your father, a wordsmith for a living, I want you guys to try and draw what he just described, and he called it mud. It wasn't even beach sand. He called it mud, and he just said an asshole came out of the sand as if David Sampson had appeared.
Whoa.
I like that.
It is a squid-like. It's got a number. Pull it up again. It's got a number of different tentacles. It looks like the top of a court jester's hat. In terms, it looks a bit like an alien. But then, when you get past the octopi part of the situation, then it's just a slab of body that I don't. What would you? It's like a slab of beef. It looks
But
like.
I think that's what it is. I think those tentacles are like the whiskers on a catfish, where it finds its food and then it inhales the food through the opening, which is the mouth, and then it is absorbed through that body.
But this is why I think it's the asshole. Look how close it is to the tail, Ron. That's the tail in the back of it, is it not? That's hanging out until to the floor.
No, I think that's some type of antenna. I think that's some type of antenna. I don't think that's a tail. I think the tail is the body
great.
part.
This is great video. It's not great audio, but it is.
No, it is great. It's fantastic. I don't know what it is. Like I said, the ocean holds so many secrets, and I certainly don't, profess myself to be an expert of ocean life, but it was pretty incredible.
All right, let's look at this video with Ron. This is a herd of water buffalo, and it comes back to save a calf from a pride of lions. I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know how much you get moved by things like this in the wild. How often do you get moved by things like this? This is bad for the lions. The lions need to know not to mess with this calf, correct?
That's true. That is true. Cape buffalo are considered the most dangerous animal in Africa. You know about the experience I had with one of them. And you were there, as a matter of fact. Lions don't mess with Cape buffalo. They're just trying to get that calf. I don't know how this ended up. My suspicion is that the video is really cool, but at the end of the day, they probably got that calf anyway.
Oh, no.
You think so? Because it's
no, wait a minute. I take it back. No,
the
back upstairs.
reinforcements.
The calf lives. I thought it was just that one female with the calf and the pride of lions, and I said no chance. But no, when I saw the reinforcements come in, it's over. Lions got to call it a day.
All right, what about this video here? What are your thoughts here on this human being who decides that he is going to high five a bear here? How dangerous?
An idiot.
Okay.
He's an idiot.
All right, but he seems
a solid dap.
It was a good high five. It looks like it's a baby bear, and
yeah, okay.
Big baby.
You can't fix stupid, Dan. And people like that make it dangerous for people who come after them. That's what the problem.
Well, but he got a successful high five. That you can't dispute.
Really? Is that your conclusion here? Looking at this video?
Well, am I wrong?
Dan, stop it. Okay,
That's
stop perpetuating that
That's
crap.
a fact. He got a successful high five.
I think that's a human in a costume. Not gonna lie.
It does look like one.
Looks like the posture's too good.
Let's look at this. Stan Van in or Stan Van out, Ron McGill? Is this a human being in a costume, in a bear costume? Are you Stan Van in or Stan Van out on that is David Sampson in a bear costume?
We had the same issue with that one bear in China. Remember, they thought there was a whole TikTok craze that the guy in a costume standing there. Bears can stand up that way. I've seen it firsthand.
Looks like he's tipping
that's a
over.
bear.
Ron,
Backward.
no one has been hurt more by the way that Zoom distorts sound than you because you're great with animal sounds. So I wouldn't ask you to repeat an animal sound for us now because of how Zoom distorts it. But can you tell us what your favorite animal sound is?
Favorite animal sound? I think it's the lyrebird, because the lyrebird can make so many different sounds that it's hard to believe it's one animal. I've heard lyrebirds like mimic fire alarms and other animals and drinking water. It sounds like water got lyrebirds. If you Google that lyrebird, sounds of lyrebirds, you'll be blown away.
Is this what the lyrebird sounds like?
Oh, yeah.
Does the lyrebird sound like that?
Oh, yeah.
It can. If it heard it, it could reproduce that sound pretty well.
That is the lyrebird.
Oh, yeah.
What animal makes that sound? What is What is the closest animal in the animal kingdom?
It sounds like Elmer Fudd to me. I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
It's pretty good. Ron, welcome back. It is nice to see you again, sir. Thank you.
All right, guys. Have a great week.
We've missed him. Ron McGill travels all over the globe helping people, interns, people who want to live a fun life around wildlife. He just comes back from a trip in Australia. I can't imagine how fun that was for the winners that were with him to see the world that way. And thank you to all of our fans in Australia who were kind enough to find Ron McGill in the wild and give him a hug. If you want to support his endowment, you can do so. It is substantive, and you listeners are the biggest donators that Zoo Miami has ever had. So we thank you for that. We've got more of this, do we?
The Stinkin' Truth with Mark Schlereth.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's got to be true.
That is a real podcast. Chirpin' with Jeremy Roenick.
I say yeah. Chirpin' with an apostrophe. I love that.
Do you?
Yeah. You can't have the G on the end. Gotta lop it.
All right, so I want to ask you.
Lop it.
I want to ask you guys: when has trash talk escalated to chirping? And a similar question: when has an argument finally gotten to heated? Like when does I want to know the spot in where, because chirping is. It's not the worst of trash talk.
It's pretty low, I'd say.
Isn't that just hockey? Chirping?
It's definitely used a lot in hockey. But I would call a chirp is just like a harmless thing, a little pass by.
Yeah, it's a small bird is where it comes from, but I think chirping is the lowest form. It is the mildest form of trash talk, is it not? Even an argument that is heated is something that is more threatening in nature than chirping. Chirping is the weakest form of disagreement in sports, is there not?
Nah, not in hockey.
Not
chirping,
in hockey.
Especially in this Stanley Cup final, it was pretty bad.
Yeah, but the chirping, Roy, but it's not fighting. It's just chirping.
Chirping is it's parakeets. It's not even adult birds that chirp.
Is it a real or fake podcast? Hosted by Jeremy Roenick.
Do adult birds chirp, or is it just baby birds that chirp? Is the chirp made by a baby?
I think any bird can chirp.
It's fake.
Is it with an apostrophe?
It's a fake podcast. We made it up. Deal with it. Hosted by Jonathan Papelbon. Deal with it. Hosted by Jonathan Papelbon.
Papelbon deals.
Yes, I get what's happening here, but I don't believe that is a podcast. I don't believe that Papelbon has any great desire to have his words out there.
His real podcast is called Pap Smear.
That is true. Deal with it with Jonathan Papelbon, not real. That's the way I crumble. Hosted by Cookie Rojas. That one's fake. Can of Corn with Joe Mays.
I see what you're doing there.
Does Jeremy Roenick have an actual podcast? Because he does. It's just not that one, right? What you're doing right now is this shell game of throwing people at me who have podcasts, but disorienting me with the name.
Is Can of Corn with Joe Mays a real podcast?
Wait, why did you move off of Cookie Rojas so?
Because that one was
bad?
obviously fake. Is he still with us? That's the way
careful.
I crumble with Cookie Rojas.
That's excellent.
It's not a real one.
That is, but wait a minute.
But Can of Corn with Joe Mays.
Did you just kill Cookie Rojas?
No, I asked the question.
Jeremy Roenick
Still with us.
He's got a real podcast called Snipes and Stripes. It's him and an NHL referee.
Tim Peel.
That's good. Can of Corn with Joe Mays.
No, that's not a podcast.
But his last name is Mays.
It's amazing.
It's not gonna. It's not gonna be. Nobody.
Say La Vie with Ron Say.
The Penguin.
That is not a podcast. And why would Ron Say, a third baseman for the '70s Dodgers, start a podcast? It's ridiculous.
I'm getting to it with Sean Green.
No.
Is I'm getting to it with Sean Green a real podcast?
No, that's not a real podcast.
It should be.
No, it shouldn't be.
Excellent.
The thing that you're doing that is wrong and ruins the game for me.
I'm getting to it.
This could be a good game, but you're ruining it because every time it has got an obvious tell by you just naming a 90s player that you remember. Like
I'm getting to it.
All you remember about Sean Green is that he got a lot of money from the Dodgers and
that he doesn't play on Rosh Hashanah.
He doesn't play for the Jewish holiday. That's correct.
That's the breaks with Kurt Busch. That's the breaks.
I'm going to
Kurt
say
Busch.
that is a podcast. I'm going to say that.
No, Dem's the breaks is.
Ah.
But it's
Got him. You idiot. Of this game.
Say what needs to be said is what started all of this.
Deal with it.
With Jonathan Papelbon.
Look at me when I'm talking to you.
Do you believe, Greg, when I turn that music off, when I say what I do about Urban Meyer, the audience has no real revulsion to Urban Meyer being on their television. The audience supports the idea that Urban Meyer was an expert on this thing, and therefore him saying that he's disgusted by what the game is now, as if what he was presiding over was somehow pure when he had a murderer in his huddle. And now he's just objecting to the fact that the power and the money have shifted in a way that he can't control, and it's what made his NFL experience such a laughingstock, that he couldn't control adults the way that he could control children when the power structure was set up for him to control children.
Well, as a championship coach, he's always going to have that platform and that prestige, and it can survive scandal and disgrace. But I don't blame him, and I understand his saying that he doesn't want to be involved in what's happening now. I said yesterday, I forget exactly how it came up, that the last thing I would want to be right now is an athletic director in college sports, because there's just too much going on. There's too many directions. There's too many revenue streams. It's tough to keep track of. That's why all these college basketball programs are hiring general managers and everything now. They've created a whole new echelon of jobs in the sport because an AD cannot handle everything.
Why, though, would you put Urban Meyer in charge of anything?
I wouldn't personally.
But why would anybody? Why would he be?
The results?
Because he's got the perfume of being a championship coach. I mean, he is an accomplished college coach. You know, that stays. That's for eternity. I mean, he's always going to be that.